The Survivor Specialists are back, and once again, I am joined by Wes from Once Upon an Island, and today we are going to be talking about more players winning Survivor. Nicaragua through Philippines today. That means Fabio. That means Boston Rob. That means Sophie. That means Kim, and that means Denise. That is where we are going today. A weird, last time I was talking about it was under the radar. This is a weird stretch of winners too, but I feel like it was kind of like an up and down. There was an ebb and flow here. I think you have two incredibly dominant winners. You have two very much under the radar winners. And then you have Denise falling somewhere kind of in the middle of all of that. So excited to talk about these 5 winners. We just started our Survivor winner rankings. We released our bottom 10 winners of all time. We're going to be starting off right now with Fabio. And that is a player that we did have ranked in our bottom 10, probably to the surprise of nobody. Although Will ranked him all the way up at like 27. Will absolutely loves Fabio. Interesting game from Fabio here on this Nicaragua season. But Wes, welcome back. Before we get into Fabio, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. I'm looking forward to this, talking about this section of winners. I think there's good variety here. I know there always is, but there can definitely be times where it's like, the winners are similar-ish. I kind of feel like that with Danny through, I guess you're not going to agree with this. Danny through Todd, I feel like there wasn't as much variance as there is here. Like from Fabio to Boston Rob is a massive difference. From Rob to Sophie's a massive like it's almost like Sophie and Denise are probably the most similar winners. I put that in quotes. But even then, I mean, it's just like a wide variety of winning games here. So I think it makes for an interesting section to talk about because of the different ways they all won. But Fabio is our first one. I know that Fabio is not everybody's favorite. Like he's not respected, but I like Fabio. I know Nicaragua was the first season. Jeff Probst is an executive producer. Take that for what you will, the beginning of the Dark Ages. But I like Fabio as a winner. This season, though, overall, not a big fan of the season. I don't really like Nicaragua this season as much.
I think that is what's so interesting about this group of 5 seasons. And maybe Philippines doesn't fall into this, but these are some of the worst casts of all time, which I also think makes it hard to like properly discuss these winners because Boston Rob and Kim have absolutely dominant wins.
Yeah.
But they played against people who didn't understand what Survivor was. And then you have somebody like Fabio who wins, who's coming out there, who's not the best Survivor player by any means. Definitely that's a cast that's put together in a little bit of a stunt casting way. I love Fabio too. I think Fabio winning Nicaragua is one of the only redeeming qualities of that season, but it's how I feel about Bob. Bob was my day one. I love this guy. I hope he wins, but he still doesn't play a very good game. And that's kind of where Fabio falls in too. I remember when you're watching this season unfold, you're like, oh my God, please let Fabio win. Once Brenda's out, Chase is just so vanilla. And then Sash is such I don't even know. Yeah. And like, you're not really rooting for Holly. You're not really rooting for Dan. And so Fabio becomes a fan favorite, but Fabio becomes a fan favorite in a way where one, you're not even all that excited that he's playing, right? Or like nobody ever wants to see him play again, I guess is what I should have said. And two, it's like, is he actually a fan favorite in the grand scheme of Survivor? Is it strictly because of the season he was playing on and how poor of a job they did casting what this season is? So yeah, I mean, I don't know, with Fabio, it's so compelling because his game isn't great, but his game is intentional. He's a fan favorite, but he's only a fan favorite on Nicaragua, not in the grand scheme of Survivor. So yeah, it's a weird place Fabio falls into.
The season kind of falls off a cliff once the double quit happens. And it's not because they quit. It just, the entertainment value just drops off a cliff those last 3 episodes. So I think it kind of reflects on my thoughts and thoughts and feelings on the season is like, maybe the season is actually better than I think. It's just that the last 3 episodes are so boring, even though Fabio wins. That's kind of like, it's just not, it doesn't feel as good when it finishes, I guess. It doesn't go down as well as other seasons finish,
I really do kind of hate this season. And one of my big things is Nyanka being one of the people that we focus on the whole time. I truly think she's despicable. And I don't think she's like entertaining despicable. I just think she's despicable.
I disagree. I think Nyanka is fantastic television.
Oh, she's such an ableist monster. I really do. Like the way she talks about Kelly Bruno, I think is so offensive. And that really bothers me. Now, granted, I understand why they're putting her on TV, but I think in the society that we've grown into now, people try to go back and be like, no, we love Nyanka. It's like if anybody came on Survivor now and acted the way Nyanka
oh
did,
my gosh,
job,
they'd rip
their
the
head,
shred.
everything. Because she's truly evil to Kelly Bruno on this season. I don't care what she says to Fabio, calling him stupid, doing any of that, but I really do think she's evil to Kelly Bruno. And the thing is, like, when I'm watching this season, I agree with you about the double boot, but for me, it's like the people that we're focusing on are Marty and Brenda. Marty and Brenda are gone by what, final 9?
Right. They're gone right before the double boot, the double quit.
Brutal. Yeah, it's brutal. The double quit. That's what I meant. It's really hard to watch once Marty goes out of the game, because that's who we as an audience have been focusing on, and Brenda as well. I think you're right about this season, Wes. I rank this as like one of the bottom 3 or 4 seasons in the history of the show.
The fans rank this season number 43. But Fabio's winner ranks 38, right above Amber. Okay. So Fabio, that's about where he is every season. He's around the area. Last year's 34, so mid to low 30s for him. And of course, every season there's 2 more winners, 2 more seasons to compete against. So the numbers, if you drop a little bit, just could be the new seasons are better than yours. But yes, I like Fabio. Here's the thing with Fabio though, is he starts before the season. This is again the DVDs. Seasons 1 through 29 are invaluable in terms of the extra content. From 30 through 41, a bit hit and miss, but through 29, absolutely. And this is one of those seasons where you get all the Ponderosa videos, you get the pre-season stuff, and the preseason stuff. Fabio's like, I know people are going to view me as dumb, and I'm going to play that up. He's like, I may be a little dumb, but I'm going to play into the fact that I'm dumb because that's what people expect of me. And it's like, I think that's fantastic, knowing how people perceive you is important, but also it's like, okay, do I need to upend this perception of myself or should I play into it? And Fabio, in this case, like, I'm going to play into it because he can only help me. And it's one of those things they don't really say on the show. They just start season off and he's like, he's dumb. He's Fabio, dumb blonde, out of Shannon's mouth. And Shannon, what voice of reason Shannon turns out to be. Yeah. But that's the perception of Fabio, is that he's a bit dumb and it helps him a lot of times. And by the time people want to get him out, he just goes on an immunity winning streak. I think he wins 4 or 5.
He doesn't win 5. I think he wins the last 3, because he could go home when Benry goes home at 6, right?
Yeah.
And then he's at 7. He wins it at 6, he wins it at 5, he wins it at 4. So he wins the final 3 immunity challenges because they always want to get rid of him during that stretch. And like what I love about
Merge 1 too with Jane, but he didn't need it. That's when Alina goes home. He didn't need that one.
But
he got it.
And what I love about Fabio, though, is towards the end of the game, how he's almost like mocking the players that he's stuck playing with, right? Like, I love that he's just sitting there like laughing in their faces towards the end, because they also obviously wanted him out of the game. And as he starts winning these immunities, now they have no way of getting rid of him. Look, is him winning 5-4 super impressive? No, not really. I had him personally ranked as my number 42, though, because I do feel like you brought up all this conversation about Fabio and just overall what he knew how people were going to perceive him.
Yeah.
I think that's so important. And that's why I rank him higher than a lot of other players, because I do feel like his game was intentional. I just don't think it was that good. Like, I don't think this is a replicable game. I think that if you come out and you try to play like Fabio again, more often than not, you're going to end up in the Ben Katzman 0 vote finalist spot than you are as the winner of your season. I think that this was just a very specific set of circumstances that really worked out in Fabio's favor. However, like, to know yourself in that way and to be okay coming across that way, to have other players saying you're the dumb blonde and you're dumb and this, that, whatever, but to be personable enough that it's like, okay, fine, we'll just let him hang around. There's a lot to be said for that. And his social game is very good. Nyanka votes for him. Nyanka, who hates him the whole season, votes for him.
She comes around to him later by the end. She's like talking to him on the volcano, if I recall. Wasn't she talking to Fabio? Yeah.
I'm pretty sure when she's about to quit, Fabio's like getting mad at her, and then she's getting mad back at Fabio, and he can't believe that she's taking the reward.
There's really nobody Nyanka got along with all the time, it seemed like.
Yeah, she's brutal. Anyway, I feel like Fabio's game, we talk about this a lot, and when we go through these winners especially, I think there's a lot to be said about what games you could win like again and which ones you can't. Fabio is the only person who can win as Fabio. It's not an overly strategic game. It does rely on immunities at the end. That is something that this community just does not really enjoy. However, you like, I really believe that if he doesn't win this season, Survivor goes into an even darker place than it already went.
Oh,
During
Chase wins this season's even worse.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Chase wins this season's worse for it.
And if Holly wins, people can make the argument in retrospect. Nobody was rooting for Holly in 2010. It was 2010, fall of 2010. Nobody was excited watching Holly win the season. And it sounds like a good storyline of her comeback and everything. Honestly, Jane isn't that popular either. And that's the one conspiracy I believe is that Jane got fan favorite because that was pretty much a hush money thing of like, be quiet. Don't announce that Sash wasn't allowed to get votes at Final Tribal.
Or Jane got fan favorite this season?
Yeah. Yeah.
Really?
No shot, right?
My goodness. All right, let me look this up. No, I'm sure you're right. I just want to see, like, did they show you? Sometimes they'll say who like second place was. I'm curious if like second place was more.
They don't even say it, and that's why I think that it's rigged, because there's this whole theory. I don't know if you know this or not, but there's this whole theory.
I know about the Sash mortgage thing, if that's what you're talking about.
Yeah, he was going to pay off her mortgage if she voted for him to win. And so he says, okay, and then they do that, and then Jane wins fan favorite. Jen is absolutely not the fan favorite of the season.
I see. Yes, if you look, so for anyone wondering what Phil's talking about, if you look up the fan favorite award on Survivor Wiki, you can see all the time somebody's won the fan favorite award, and it'll tell you who the closest opponents were: second, third place, sometimes fourth. But there's only 3 times they've never told you second place was. One was in Panama when Suri won it, which, I mean, fair. It was probably her or Terry. Let's be real. Terry could have won that. Suri won it. You know. I'm sure Terry was second, is what I'm saying, if he didn't get first. Jane, as you just said, they didn't disclose who second place was. It's like, why is that? Because from seasons from Cook Islands through Heroes vs. Villains, they always revealed who second and third place was. Panama is when they brought back the fan favorite. So it's like maybe they didn't think to do it. And they're like, oh, we should do it for Cook Islands. And then they just did it from there. But you're right. And then all of a sudden they don't do it for Nicaragua, but they do it for Redemption Island. And then they just keep doing it all the way through Caramellan. And then in the hands of the fans, they don't reveal it. But like, again, massive gap. I'm sure it wasn't even close to re-winning that thing.
Yeah.
On 50. So yeah, it does look a little suspicious when you look at that chart and you're like, huh, like it's fair. Maybe they just forgot to do on Panama, but no, they definitely chose not to on Nicaragua.
Yeah, they chose not to. And that's something that I also kind of put in there. I don't think Sash would have gotten any votes anyway at the end, because I think he was so sleazy. I think everybody saw right through him this entire season. But it's definitely something to consider when you talk about the final 3 of this season. Like, was it always going to be Chase versus Fabio, or did Sash have a little bit more of a chance with some people? I guess not. I mean, we'll never know, but I just find it to be crazy that that is a conspiracy theory that's out there. And it's one that I kind of buy into a little bit because of the weird circumstances. You don't announce second place. You have much more popular people on that season. Jane never comes back to Survivor. Jane, I don't believe, is ever asked back to Survivor, right? Like, I don't think they ever say, hey, we need to have Jane back on Survivor. Marty's always been in the mix. Brenda does come back for fans versus favorites. Obviously, Fabio wins the season. Chase Rice goes on to become a mega superstar musician, and Jane wins fan favorite. It doesn't add up really at all to me. So yeah, that's
Jane
just
passed away last year, so they're not, even if they were they're not.
Yeah, now, yeah, I know that. Yeah.
But I'm looking to see if she's ever been asked back. Yeah, interesting. I want to mention there was one person who commented a little while ago, Brennan, about maybe 6-7 minutes ago, saying the contrast from HVV to this season is crazy. Just the color is so much duller. You can see it when you watch back to back. Very astute. Something I've said in a lot of my Nicaragua videos. I don't like this location, and I don't think it's the location. I think it's the time of year they go there. I don't think this is a good time of year for this location, Nicaragua. So it surprises me that they go there for 21, 22, 29 to 30. And I think all 4 seasons visually are dull. And I think it affects your enjoyment of the season. I think there are visual changes in Survivor. When we go from All-Stars Vanuatu, like all of a sudden there's like digital noise reduction. It's almost like what happened to the grain that was in the first 8 seasons, which I know some people don't like grain, but it, like, when it's there, it's like that's the true image. When they remove it, they're removing detail. And then Micronesia, of course, is they cranked saturation up after China for some reason. And then, but Gabon is a jump up because it's HD. But from Gabon through HVV, like visually, it always looks good. Even though Tocantins doesn't have much color, like for in terms of, versus like a beach location or even Gabon, it looks good. But then Nicaragua is just like, yeah. And then when it goes South Pacific, it looks better. One World is good, except for the credits. For some reason on the credits, they decided to go like the sepia tone. I don't know what to call it. Like, and it's like, why? It doesn't look good. And then Philippines, I think, looks better. Even though it's rainy there almost all season, it looks better. So it's just very interesting. I think it does affect people's enjoyment of season, like when you're just visually looking at a visually duller season. It does not help. Like if it looked better, it could help. The new era, they're always cranking that saturation up as much as they can get away with it. But not here. Yeah. And they were definitely doing color grading, color correcting. I know that.
It's funny you say that though, because it is a very gray season. And I always wonder, I'm like, is it just because they're on that weird beach where they really couldn't go in the water and like all of that? And it's like, no, it really is a gray season. And I think that's an interesting point there brought up by Brennan. Even Fabio's bright yellow shirt doesn't quite pop as much as you feel like it would on other seasons. So yeah, it's like they were going for a I don't know. They're doing what the Hollywood producers are doing nowadays, where they just drain the color out of every big movie, and like blue doesn't exist anymore. Everything's just gray. Yeah, I mean, so let's talk about Fabio and how he kind of navigates this season and how people kind of try to use him. He's never in control. Right. I don't think he's ever in control of the game. I don't think there's ever a time where he's really the one who's driving anything that's going on. He is much more of a passenger, which I think is important, though, to his story. Can Fabio win with a different cast, or is this specifically the cast he needs?
Man, I think there are other seasons Fabio could win. It's a shame he wasn't asked back for 40 or 50. I know he posted that online that he wasn't asked back for 40.
He didn't know 40 was happening. I was in the room when he found out. I'm not joking.
Oh, were you?
I was there. I was at a Johnny Fairplay event. Rhino was there. Bob Dog was there. JP from Vanuatu was there. Yeah. And War Dog was there. And Fabio showed up. And that was the night Fabio found out they were doing Winners at Work.
That's so crazy, man.
Crazy.
Well, I'm surprised they didn't just ask every winner and be like, hey, like, we're not promising anything. We're just asking. Like, why wouldn't they ask Fabio? Anyways, all right. So it's so crazy because he would be such a different winner than all the other winners they have, especially that season. I think Fabio winner of seasons. I think it really comes down to who he's sitting next to. And I know that's like almost every winner ever. Though I think some winners are immune to whoever they sit next to. Fabio is definitely one where I think there's other seasons he would win. Like if you replaced him in the final three, like let's say you just swapped him into another final three and put him against two other people, I think he could win. I don't know if he wins a new era season though. And if he does, they put a lot more stock into making him look better. I think the story goes out of its way to make him look better if he somehow, but I don't think a new era season he would win. But I do think there are other seasons around this time frame, older seasons than this one. Newer, I'm struggling off the top of my head to think, because I think once Tony wins, it kind of shifts the game again.
I think about it
post Tony winning Cagayan, top of my head.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like when I start thinking about who the winners are in the 30s, and you start saying to yourself, like, Troy Zan's a 0 vote finalist because people viewed him as more of a character than a strategist. Like he was more of an old school player than a strategist. Ken McNichol gets 0 votes. Hannah gets 0 votes. Like, I'm just pulling out names off the top of my head, but it's, Ty doesn't do well at his final tribal council because he's seen more as a character. And I think that's what's really hard for Fabio is that Fabio, it all depends on how a cast views him. And I think this being an old versus young season is perfect for Fabio because I think by being an old versus young season, you're getting that young blood that is saying, you know what, it's okay to come out here and have a good time and have your hair flow in the wind. And we're going to go do all these different things. Like, I think if this was a regular season of Survivor where everybody's on an even playing field and the tribes don't actually have names, or they're not broken up by like age or anything, gender, whatever it is.
Right.
I think Fabio has a harder time winning. And I do think that this cast was willing to take things a little bit more seriously. First of all, massively recruited cast. I think Jimmy T and Jimmy Johnson were the only two who actually applied for the show, if I'm not mistaken. Everybody else was
Jimmy T won a Sears competition.
He did. I see. And that's why you guys come to us. It was a Sears competition where he made a video and it was posted on CBS's website and he got the most votes and was cast on the season based off of that. This was before they did Cambodia. So before there was actually a fan vote to get people on the season. But yeah, it's it's interesting that they were willing to still give it to Fabio. I don't think Fabio could ever win another season because I don't think people would take him seriously. It's almost like Michelle when she comes back for Winners at War. People are almost annoyed that Michelle knew what was going on so much that they don't want to reward her. And it's like, okay, they're not going to reward her over Tony anyway. But if she sits next to Natalie and Sarah, she probably still doesn't get rewarded. And I think that's where Fabio falls in a little bit more. And even if it was his first time playing, there's not a lot of casts who want to go for kind of the goofy 21, 22, however old he was, kind of guy who's just like the skateboard surfer, bro.
I think Fabio, so if you go back to past seasons, I think Fabio wins Gabon, which isn't saying a lot, but I think Fabio wins Gabon. If you replace any of the final three with him, I think he wins Samoa if you replace Mick with him.
Yeah.
If you replace Natalie with him, he wins. Like, if he's against Mick and Russell, he wins. But I think he wins if he replaces Mick. I could be wrong on that because, again, how did he get to the final three? You know what I mean? Like, was he the Brett of that season? You know, he's not Mike Tyson, he's Fabio. I'm not sure how Fabio gets there, but let's say Fabio is in Mick's spot. I think Fabio wins. All right, so then I think keep going back. Micronesia, I don't think he wins. I don't think he wins Tocantins. Like, he's not being Steven, he's not being JT. He's not winning Micronesia. He's not winning China. He could win 14 Fiji. If you replace Earl with him, he wins. Like,
but he has to play the Earl game to get to the final three. I think that's the other thing. Like, can he play the game?
Plays the same game. That's my proposal. Fabio's the same person. He's just on a different season and got to final three, doing the exact same thing he did, which of course is ridiculous because like it's a different season with different rules. But I'm saying that I think there's older seasons Fabio could win final threes, but I'm trying to think beyond 21. Like, I don't think he wins on Boston Rob season unless Boston Rob just isn't there, you know? And like, okay, like what a crap cast that is. That's not saying a lot. And then South Pacific, does he beat Sophie Clark? Like, let's say he's sitting next to the winners. Does he beat Boston Rob? No. Does he beat Sophie Clark? No. But if I go back, I'm like, I think he beats Bob Crowley. I think he could beat Natalie White. So it's like beyond Nicaragua, I don't know if he wins. But before Nicaragua, I think he could win all those older seasons. I think maybe he beats Sophie Clark. Like he replaces Albert because he wouldn't be scummy like Albert.
Yeah, he's going to come across as more goofy. So what's your best Fabio move?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think Fabio, his best move was, and it's going to sound, I guess, it's not like a individual move, but I think really, of course, winning immunities is a move. So he needed the wins he got at the time he got them. But in terms of social game, it's the fact that he might get like offended, but like Fabio never held grudges. People this season held grudges. There was a lot of villains cast on this season. Fabio was not a villain. He was a hero amongst villains. They clearly, from China, in my opinion, from China until through this season, they were trying to cast villains. You could tell, like more villains than heroes. And Fabio was a hero amongst villains, and I think that helped him a lot. Like, people were like, they didn't view him as a threat, and he played into that. He was never like, hey guys, I'm actually smarter than you think I am. Fabio wasn't out there trying to prop himself up, and it made people feel okay about him. But eventually people were like, well, we can't let Fabio keep going. And that's when he won immunity. So I think the fact that he was always like willing to he's like, oh, what the heck, guys? But at the same time, like Fabio wasn't, you never felt like, oh, I hate Fabio. I think his social game is just that we like him. Even if you think he's dumb or even if you don't think he's the best, you just like him. You like the guy. He's hard not to like.
And I think that is fair, and especially with the type of game that Fabio played. But if I'm going for like a tribal council move, something like that, when he decides to stick and get rid of Kelly B over Marty, when they all make that decision, him, Purple Kelly, Brenda, they decide, okay, we're actually going to take out Kelly B. I think that was a good move for him because it gave him options and kept a threat in the game. Yes, Kelly B was going to be somewhat threatening later in the game because people are going to be worried about her with jury votes. But like Marty, such a gamer, of course they're going to be looking at Marty.
He's a shield too because Marty had to.
And you're looking at now you have more inroads with some of the older people. So not keeping it as young versus old was a good thing because even though the season ends as 3 young people sitting at final 3 Espadas are there at final 6. And Fabio gets Dan's vote. And Fabio also gets Marty's vote. So like being willing to kind of cross that boundary with some of the older people, him and Chase get the same amount of old people votes. And I think that all started when he got rid of Kelly B.
Yeah, Fabio, I think he wasn't impressive. You know, if you're looking for like an impressive winner, this is not it. But if you're looking for a likable winner, Fabio's very likable as a winner. What's his worst move is the fact that he didn't really like, he was almost never in on the majority of votes, showing that he was usually out of the loop on who was going. It wasn't like, oh, I'm not going to vote for this person because they're my friend. It was most of the time like Fabio didn't know.
Yeah.
Fabio just didn't know. Heck, he tried voting off Marty, by the way, on the Jill vote, but Jill ended up instead.
Oh, I didn't even remember that.
3-2-2. I know. Nicaragua can go in one ear and out the other. He was not in on the Shannon vote, votes for Brenda. He was not in on the Jill vote, votes for Marty. He was not in on the Marty vote, votes for Jane. He was not in on the Benry vote, votes for Holly. He was, so I say half the time he was in on the majority. He votes for Holly, votes for Dan, he votes for Jane, votes for Brenda, votes for Alina, votes for Kelly B. So he misses on 1, 2, 3, 4 votes, which I guess I thought it was more than that, but still.
But my thing is, he also only goes to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 tribal councils. So he only votes correctly 60% of the time. That's not very good. And the thing is, like, if you're asking what's his worst move, it's probably just what takes place at Final 13, because Fabio has literally no control. Dan and Benry both vote for Fabio. They really think Fabio's going home. Fabio doesn't even vote for Benry, who ends up going home. Fabio has no idea what's happening. He loses total control there. He ends up surviving it. Good for him, but he has no idea why he's going to survive it.
Yeah. Fabio, like him as a winner. I don't think that his game's one to replicate. I think there's some games you could take as a blueprint. Fabio definitely not one of those blueprint games.
And how far away was
Jeremy
he?
Collins. I think Jeremy Collins Cambodia is the blueprint. Like, build off of that. Do that and build off of it. But don't. This is just not one of them.
What's how far was he from a perfect game before we move on?
Oh gosh, great question. Yes, Fabio was 6 votes off a perfect game. For those who did not listen to prior podcasts we've done, perfect game is how many votes you are off from having 0 votes against you, but then getting every single jury vote. The only statistical definition we have to define what a perfect game is that. And Fabio was 6 votes off. He missed 4 votes. Of course, Chase got those at Final Tribal, and then he got 2 votes against him during the season. I'm looking to see who did that.
He only did it at the Benry vote. Yeah, it was only when Dan and Benry voted for him at Final 7. That's the only time he got votes, because then when they wanted to vote after that, he kept winning immunity, so they couldn't vote.
Yeah, it was just the Benry vote. That's the only time he got votes against him. Otherwise, yeah, he had it at the right time, but he almost lost to Chase. Thank goodness that quitters could stay on the jury, because without the quitters, he loses 4-3 to Chase, and the season's worse for it.
100%. We have one of our most boring winners in the history of the show. Chase is a much more boring Brad Culpepper in my eyes. So,
Chase promising things, and then 2 seconds later turning around, not doing them.
He did not get that.
I'm gonna take you on a reward. Goes the reward, doesn't take the person. Does it like twice, I think.
Yeah,
Chase,
he's
not
brutal.
promising things.
He's brutal. All right, let's move on to Boston Rob.
Yep.
All right, so Boston Rob, winner of Survivor Redemption Island. This is always when we do these rankings, and we haven't talked about him yet, so I'm not going to say where I have him ranked in my winner rankings. But we're ranking all 50, and we're ranking both Tony games individually. We're ranking both Sandra games individually. When I talk about Boston Robs, to me, this is the hardest one to rank, because statistically, this is the most dominant game there is. Like, there's no denying that. He takes his tribe. He votes out every single person he wants to vote out. There's never any opposition to him at all. He wins however many immunities he wins. He doesn't even need them, because nobody's ever going to try to vote out Boston Rob. He sits at the end, and he just doesn't get 1 vote because Ralph is there. However, it's his 4th time playing, and he's playing against a bunch of recruits who have absolutely 0 idea what Survivor is.
I would argue that JT played an equally dominant game his first time, because every vote went his way. Every vote went JT's way. And less to work with. Boston Rob had power. I'm just saying, you say it's most statistically dominant. I think JT first game is just as dominant as Boston Rob.
And that's fair.
I
think for me, it's like when you watch this season, it's like, hey, Rob says it's going to happen. And so he spoils every single episode, because whatever he says is going to happen ends up happening. The move against Matt is absolutely brilliant. That's the best move of the season. There's no denying it. In my opinion, that's the move that's Boston Rob's best winning move on his winning season when they vote out Matt when he comes back from Redemption Island and he just eliminates him so that there's no avenue for Andrea or anybody to make anything happen. But it's like, what do you do with Boston Rob? He's playing. This is like, okay, Dan Marino in his prime or 6 years into his career is going to go play against a bunch of, middle schoolers. Like, that's what this felt like. And, whatever quarterback you want to use, it doesn't matter. That's what this felt like. And you can say, well, that's Boston Rob. Look how early Russell goes out. Nobody liked Russell, right? Russell had done so much damage to his reputation so early on. Nobody liked Russell at all. And so I can't even be like, oh man, Russell did such a bad job. It's like, no, Russell really didn't have a chance stepping onto that island, especially since he immediately goes back to his shenanigans. Boston Rob just plays the, hey, I'm your buddy. And there is a charisma to Boston Rob. But it's just like, of course he was going to win when you look at the players who are on his season. Of course. There's no competition here. There's zero.
Something interesting to note for those who, Survivor repeats this location. This is Nicaragua again, obviously. Mm-hmm. So they do reuse that beach where, like, in last season, like, the massive, like, river ends up coming through when it floods later in the season. They reuse that beach. But something I didn't realize when I was watching San Juan del Sur is that the merge beach of Redemption Island, where Matt infamously talks to Boston Rob in that rock and says, yeah, I was going to vote you off, but I decided not to do that. And it's like, Boston Rob's like, this dude made a big mistake. When they were on that rock, that's Exile Island from San Juan del Sur.
Oh, that
is Exile. It's the exact same rock because it's so visually distinct. And when I watched San Juan del Sur, I'm like, why do I recognize this location? And it took going back to Redemption Island, and like, that's the rock Boston Rob and Matt sat on. And Matt's like, yeah, I was gonna vote you off, Rob. And Andrew's like, they're like, what is he doing? But I gotta give so Rob, obviously, he in many people's eyes should have won All-Stars. I think All-Stars is what redeems this to me and makes it like, okay, Boston Rob only won because a bunch of like morons. Like, true, there were a ton of morons this season, no doubt. But I think watching him dominate All-Stars reassured me that like he's not it was like a one season wonder doing this season. Like, I saw him dominate All-Stars against people who, while that was not as strategically advanced, it was people who all played an equal number of times. And he did the exact same thing of controlling the game. He only works from this position, though. He cannot be behind in numbers.
Yeah.
Rob has to be ahead. He's very limited in his tool set, but the tools he has, he's very good at. But he's not he's not flexible at all. So if he doesn't get his way, then he doesn't work. He's not a very good player. But when he does, when we're going the path that he wants, then we're fantastic. It's almost like he's a football team and the only thing he can do is run. He can't pass. All he can do is run. If he can't run, he cannot pass. He doesn't have a quarterback, nothing. He has a running game and an offensive line, and that's it. If that doesn't work, Rob, that's almost like how he plays.
And we see it in Winners at War because he comes out and wants to do the buddy system, and they're all like, yeah, we're not going to do this. And ends up getting himself voted out.
I think he was just goofing. I don't think he was really trying. I know he did it. I don't think he thought it was going to work. I think he was trying to make TV. That's what I really think was happening with the buddy system 2.0.
Yeah, I mean, because when you watch him on the Traders, it felt like he had a plan to go in there and just get rid of the Survivor winners. That's all he really seemed to care about, was getting rid of the survivors and being the last survivor standing. So
it did not feel like he wanted to win that either. It felt like he just wanted to make good TV. I'm not saying Survivor, he didn't go in with the intention of winning Winners at War. I think he did. But I think when the buddy system happened, I think he was like, okay, I already know I'm going. Might as well make good TV. Yeah. And I'm not saying that wasn't a strategic move either. I don't think Boston Rob was thinking he was winning. I think once Amber got voted off, he's like, oh, that's how the season is going. I think that's when it happened.
Yeah.
So, because I'm sure he built it up in his mind during Island of the Idols when he didn't tell Sandra that was going on.
Yeah.
Built up his mind. He's like, oh yeah, Winners of War. I'm going to play a great game. No.
Yeah.
But this season, he dominates, Phil. He does. He, like, statistically, he's not close to a perfect game, but goodness gracious, there's no point where you question if Rob's winning.
Yeah, he's not close to perfect game just because the Zapateras vote for him every chance they get, even though there's never a shot that anybody is ever going to flip to vote out Rob. Like, so the Zapateras are voting for him, but it's like me voting for a third-party president who's not even on the ballot. It's like I could write in Wes's name and say, Wes, Once Upon an Island. Congrats, you're going to get 4 votes, but you have no shot of ever winning.
That first episode is really the only time. That very first episode when they gave him like one confessional that you had no idea he was going to dominate the season just watching the first episode. Like, sure, tribal council goes away because Philip's, kind of crazy and all that, but it like the episode like led you to believe that Boston Rob could have gone. That's the only time.
Yeah,
was that first one when Christina had the idol. It's like they could have idled him out, but they were morons. But they could have.
Yeah,
but they didn't know Philip was going to blow everything up. But they could have.
They didn't know that Philip was actually like one of the worst players of all time. And then, Rob wins 4 immunities on this season.
Yep. He carries his family on his back, Phil. Literally on his back.
Jeff just like, you were talking about the glazing last time. I think that's the phrase you used when we talked about Chris Doherty. The glazing here is just brutal. It's so hard to watch.
Chris Doherty? Did he?
No, we did.
Oh, well, I mean, I really like Chris Doherty. I wouldn't.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. The glazing here of Boston Rob by Jeff is just absurd. Yeah. He's literally carrying his family. It's like, no, he's actually not literally doing that, Jeff. You don't know what the word literally means if you think he's literally carrying his family on his back when there's pictures of his family on a t-shirt. Like, what are we talking about here?
Yeah.
I just my thing is with Boston Rob on this season, I do rank him really high. I don't put him in the top 10, but I put him close. And my thing with Boston Rob is like, would it have been more impressive if it was a full all-star season? Yes. Like, would I have appreciated this more if this was heroes versus villains? Yes. Would I have appreciated this more if this was the original all-stars? Yes. I'm always going to knock him a little bit. It's his 4th time playing. He's playing with amateurs, and he is a Hall of Famer. So that is going to be a knock against him for sure. But, this pretty much laid the groundwork for if you're on a half and half season, this is how you should play it. And coach comes out the next season having seen this season, I believe.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And he plays almost the exact same game as Boston Rob. Coach just doesn't know how to finish at Final Tribal Council, and he mistakenly takes somebody who can beat him to the end. He should have taken Rick, or should have put more of an effort in to get Rick there than Sophie. So it's like, this is the way you're supposed to play if you're in this captain type position. And we don't see anybody else be able to replicate this moving forward, whether it's Philippines, whether it's South Pacific. Edge of Extinction's another one. Yeah. So, this is something, but again, this cast in South Pacific, they're giving layups to their returning players. Want
Guatemala, Stephanie, that was the first captain season. Stephanie reaches final 2, doesn't have a chance of winning because who she's sitting next to, apparently.
Yeah.
I don't know who we talked about that season already, but I'm just saying, like, captain seasons, like through South Pacific, it seemed like captain season was a lock for you to reach final 3. At least one of you. Yeah. That's how it had been.
Edge of Extinction is the only one with where if it's half and half or whatever.
Philippines too. Scoopin makes final 3.
That's what I'm saying. So,
like, Edge of Extinction is the only season where it doesn't happen because they're like, screw these guys. And by the way, good for them. Good for them. That's what I would say too if I was there. Screw these guys.
Truly.
I'm not going to win against them. Or if I do, it's not. They're just going to dominate the edit all season. That's what happened all the other times.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I ain't got screen time to share. That's what I'd be thinking on the island.
So what do you think? What do you think Boston Rob's worst move is?
Worst move. Ooh. Can I say his best move first? Because in my opinion, his best move, and I love learning things. I love being taught things. I do love teaching, but it sounds like, I love telling other people what to do. No, I really love learning. Therefore, I also love teaching as well. And I think one thing that Boston Rob really taught me this season, something that I think other people did not take into account in other seasons, is when somebody comes back into the game, you vote them out immediately. You don't let them stay. And so when South Pacific rolls around, like Ozzy gets voted off, sure, but it wasn't because they were like, he came back in the game. There's like, it's because it's Ozzy. Like it was his name that got him out. And then, Blood versus Water. Who comes back into the game?
Laura
Moret. And she's not really a threat. So they keep her around, but she goes out. Oh yeah. Cause did you know Sierra votes out her own mom?
I don't know if everybody knows that.
It was a
we'll get there soon. Next week, everybody.
It just seemed like, and then of course, infamously, Edge of Extinction, where Chris comes back in, and they just let him go to final 3.
Well, he also has a hidden immunity. He plays 2 idols and makes fire. So.
Well, he does trick what's her name? I think it was Lauren into giving him playing an idol for him. but they weren't going to vote him off anyways at the time. I don't remember. He didn't have the votes that time.
Yeah.
Just poor gameplay. I think Boston Rob taught us, like, if somebody comes back into the game, you just get rid of them right away. Yeah. Just get rid of them. Because there's a story there. You don't want that story. That's a story you don't have.
And they've already been burned. So why are they going to trust you fully, right? And we see it with Rick Devens. Rick Devens makes it all the way to Final Four of Edge of Extinction. I think he's even a better example than the others. Like, he keeps going because, he plays a lot of idols in communities, but like, he's almost going to win the game. And you look at this season with Matt. Matt comes in. Matt says what he says to Rob. It's so stupid. Yeah. But like, if they don't get rid of Matt there, Matt and Andrea were considering, after this vote, then we'll get rid of Rob, or then we'll start getting rid of the Omatepes, but we have to get rid of one person from that side so everybody feels comfortable. But Rob gets rid of him, and then from there on, it's 6-5, and he has his little minions. Like, they're never going to flip. Andrea has nowhere to turn, and by getting rid of Matt, he puts the fear of God into all of them. They're all terrified to do anything, and because they don't truly understand the game, they can't do anything. They don't do it.
Yeah, I think Matt would have been likable enough to win if Rob's not there. Like, let's say that works. He gets rid of Boston Rob. I think Matt has a good chance of winning in a Final Three in this season. Andrea comes back in later, gets voted off again. I don't know if Andrea at that point wins. Like, let's say
Ashley
she gets
was the
Rob.
real threat. Ashley was the only one who really had a chance. Yeah,
Rob hated Ashley.
Yeah,
just hated
so
her.
Boring. It's insane.
Oh, Ashley's the biggest threat. So I'm not sure if Andrea comes back in, she wins, but Ozzy comes back in, and like, Ozzy gets removed because Ozzy's a threat. Mm-hmm. You know, it's like, it doesn't help that he came back in. I'm trying to think, like, Laura Moret comes back in, they get rid of her. Like, there's always like, okay, this person came back in, we can't let them stay until Edge of Extinction. And so, like, that's his best move, in my opinion. His worst move, though, I don't know. I think the show screwed up by not actually having any challenges where Rob and Russell faced off in the first 2 episodes. Like, they did not plan on any face-offs. Like, there should have been the sumo at sea or something.
Yeah.
Something.
I agree.
A hero challenge like they do in Cambodia, which I know they hadn't. I don't think they had done that yet, if I'm recalling correctly. But a hero challenge.
They do it to start South Pacific too. They have Ozzy go against Coach.
A hero challenge, right? Because they actually planned for it. Where it felt like this season they kind of like were like, oh shoot, we don't really have a hook to this season. Let's get or Jeff's like, I'm executive producer. What can I do? I can bring back Boston Rob.
Yeah,
that's probably more realistically what happened, because this season I think was planned to have these returnees.
That was the whole point. We'll get Boston Rob and Russell. Won't that be so much fun to replicate an interesting storyline from Heroes versus Villains with the worst cast ever assembled?
It's true. I mean, it definitely was set up in that reunion, and it had promise at the reunion, but they just did not. They could have done another they couldn't have done all returning season, I guess. I just don't know how. Survivor's not really built for the Rob versus Russell. It's not. No. It's not built for that format. That's like an Amazing Race thing, and even then, you got all like 11 teams at least. I don't know. I will bring up Amazing Race every podcast. So.
And the other problem with the format is like they're never going to be on the same tribe. Like, you're relying on them both making the merge, which like Ozzy,
so you need challenges where they headbutt. They have to against each other, but they don't do
Ozzy
that.
And Coach both make the merge, but Ozzy and Coach, like, there's no rivalry there. It's not Coach versus JT or whatever. It's Ozzy versus Coach. So we're not like excited that they're going to get there together. And then same thing with Philippines. Like, Penner and Scoop and both make it. Who cares? They play in the first 13 seasons. It's the only thing they have in common at that point. So like, it's funny that this was the one that was really set up as a rivalry, and the whole point of the season is over by the end of episode 4.
Yeah, when Russell gets voted off. Yeah. And then the twist of the season just ends up being like, they had better ideas, apparently, people. I know we're talking about Rob, but like, I find talking about the seasons interesting as well, because it all plays into why things played out the way they did. Like, they had gray buffs planned for those in Redemption Island. I'm like, that's a cool idea. Why didn't they do it? Because they chose not to. But like, that's a cool idea. Why didn't they do that? Like, you're without a color. You're without a buff. I don't know. I mean, you have a buff, but it's a Redemption Island buff. It just seems like, I don't know. It just seems like they just like half-heartedly did this idea.
Redemption Island. The problem is, this was Jeff. So this is Jeff's second season as executive producer. And one of the first decisions he makes is to change the entire format that has worked perfectly for 21 seasons.
I mean, to be fair, the Outcast was to season 7.
And he hated that idea. And he talks about how that idea was terrible.
He still bashes it, at least through Winners of Wars. Last time I heard him talk about it, he's still like, oh, Mark Burnett had this Outcast idea. I didn't like it. I'm like, Jeff, that's just the Edge of Extinction. You ended up doing that idea, Jeff.
Yeah. Except on
you
Edge of
did the same
Extinction.
idea, Jeff. Why can't you just say it?
It's so crazy. Yeah, it drives me nuts. Jeff, I mean, that was one of his first decisions, being the guy. And it's like, Jeff, how is this what you decided to do right away?
I wonder if this season could have been better. So like really, Boston Rob just dominates the season. He gets numbers, he just dominates. People fall over backwards for him, and the people who go against him don't have numbers to do anything. That's really Boston Rob's game. I wonder how the season would have been had they done the Edge of Extinction, not Edge of Extinction, but the Edge of Extinction, like being 2 captains on each season. Like, what if it was Rob and someone else? So Rob and a lady, and Russell and a lady. So maybe Russell and Parvati, if you really want to get
into that. And
who's Rob with, though? What ladies with Rob? Sandra? I don't know if they think Sandra again. Sandra always says yes, by the way. I think she would have done this. She would have said yes. Yeah. So like Rob and Sandra versus Russell and Parvati, like wow, like that would have been more interesting. And then if a returnee goes out, at least there's more. I don't know. What a flop of a season.
I think you're right. Like, I think that makes it more interesting. And it's like, how much credit can you give Rob? He dominates. Yeah. But if this was him in Marquesas and he dominated against the other 15 people like this, it's a different story.
If he had won All-Stars, I would have ranked him higher than Amber, of course.
So if he wins All-Stars, that's a top 5 win based on how dominant he was and the strategy that he enforced. But Amber winning puts it like bottom. I think we just ranked Amber at number 42, which I think is too high for Amber. I had her at 48.
So Phil, do you think Boston Rob said no to 50 because Jeff always asked Rob any season that he could come back on, Rob, do you want to come back? He says no to 50. Do you think he comes back if Jeff's like, Rob, we want to do Blood versus Water 3. Will you do this with your oldest kid?
Yes, he will.
I think so too. I think Rob will 100%. Do it for that. Yeah, I think he would.
And I think Rob would look for the hero moment of falling on the sword to get his daughter.
For his daughter. Right. And but in confessional, he'll tell us that he's going to vote off his daughter. He doesn't care. But in reality, he's going to fall and let his daughter knock him out. Yeah. Yep. And good for him, by the way. That's what a good dad would do. You don't go in and be an a-hole to your daughter. No. Anyways, Rob, where do you think he ranks amongst 50 winners? 18. Yeah.
Oh, wow. So he's lower than I thought. Okay.
He gets knocked. I think a lot of people just have the thought it's this season that he won. Or I agree with you. If he won All-Stars, I think he would be top 10. I think he would rank in the top 10. But this season ranks 46th. So it says a lot that the winner's 18, but the season's 46.
What are the seasons below it? Have we talked
about below it? We've talked about Thailand. We're gonna talk about One World soon. And 41 and Island of the Idols are all below it. Okay, I think fair.
To me, so far on our rewatch, and I just finished 33 and I'm into 34. To me, Redemption Island is so much worse than anything else we have seen in the first 34 seasons. It's not close. Like, I think there is such a massive gap between One World, which I would say is the next worst season, and Redemption Island. Now, I hate 41 because I think 41 literally ended Survivor as we knew it. Although now that I'm watching Game Changers back, oh my God, is every decision that they make on that season a terrible one? And
you could tell the seeds of 41 were there for quite a long time.
Oh yeah, that was the jump the shark was Game Changers. But I think Redemption Island is the worst season they ever put together. There is nothing exciting to watch from episode 3. The first 2 episodes are great. And then as soon as Russell gets voted out, there is nothing left to watch. The only other good episode is the merge episode. Matt goes home and you're like, oh God, now I have to watch 7 or 8 more episodes of this. There's no drama. There's nothing to cling on to.
So we didn't talk about it, but Rob was 8 votes off a perfect game. I know we talked about the fact that you said a lot of people voted for him along the way, and that's really what it was. People just throwing votes on him because they're like, maybe the morons on Rob's alliance will see the light, and the morons in Rob's alliance did not see the light. Or they were too gun shy to do anything about it. Like, they're like, oh no, if I turn on Rob, he'll vote for me. The point is that if Rob's not there, he can't vote for you, you dummies. It's like Rizzo on 49. Well, we can't vote for Rizzo because he has an idol. That's
what it is, though. This is also where Redemption Island really helped Rob, because they were scared that he'd get back into the game.
And in the shape he was this season, it's possible he does.
Yeah,
he was in great. He's not fat dad Rob yet. He's in shape here. He's
fantastic at puzzles. Like he's phenomenal. And that's what a lot of this stuff was. And they all saw. Now you're seeing in the post merge, it's like, oh, it's just you have to be top 3 out of 4 to advance. Great, he can do that.
Yeah, I forget what the very last challenge.
Oh, he doesn't win that. It's the stupid stand with your foot up on the thing that a woman wins every single time because women have stronger hips than men, which is just a fact. And so they win that every time. That's the worst challenge to do as your last challenge because it's
wow. Did they do that for this and Blood versus Water?
Yep.
That's what Tina gets back in.
Yep.
Oh man, I forgot.
A woman has won that, and I think the most recent version was D winning it. A woman wins that challenge every single time.
Aussie gets back in on South Pacific on holding onto the pole.
That's the pole, yep. Which is the one I think you should do as the last one every time because that's one that like you really can. Anybody can do that. I know you might say, well, bigger bodies, they can't do it.
Yeah.
Anybody can do that challenge.
I think, honestly, if we had to do an endurance challenge, the one where you hold the arm above your head with the bucket of water, I think it's the most fair. It's the most fair because it's not like size or weight dependent or anything. Yeah. I feel like even the pole is size and weight dependent, you know?
Yeah. No, I agree.
All right. Well, Rob, dominant winner, just was on a bad season. But hey, as he says on Winners Award to Michelle, you win, you win. And that's what Tom said. You win, you win. You know, and I agree. A win's a win. You know, we cannot $1 million cashed all the same. All the same as everyone else.
Everybody's spending their money.
Yep. Everyone got $1 million.
All right, let's move on.
I bet Rob and Russell got a nice check from just being on the season before.
Supposedly they weren't doing appearance fees. Supposedly Survivor doesn't do appearance fees, and I kind of believe that.
I know Winners of War, they all got $40K to be on that season.
Well, that was different though. That was different because it was getting the winners back, and that was the extra incentive to come back. Okay. But like I'm talking about like when you do these like captain season, mixed seasons, fans' favorite seasons, I don't think they do that.
Huh. Okay, I believe that, especially this time because Rob, while he was he's Survivor royalty, he's definitely not. He's not who he is today, where it's like people are trying to get him on their shows. You know, today, Rob, you put Rob on your show to get people to watch your show in 2026. As we saw with the Traders, Deal or No Deal Island. I forget what else. When he was on The Amazing Race, that's why, I mean, I watched The Amazing Race already, but when he was on those seasons, like I was looking forward to watching Rob.
Yeah, I mean, Rob's a crazy big pull, so it makes sense.
Yeah. Well, time to move on.
Time to move on to the follow-up to that season, which was South Pacific, which is, hey, how are we going to get Jeff's favorites another win? That's the era of Survivor we're in. That is truly what people were thinking at this time.
No women returnees, Phil, just men.
Well, and it takes a long time. I mean, we had Stephanie as the first female returnee, and it takes until Edge of Extinction to get another female returnee, and that was because they did 2 and 2 on each tribe. It's the only reason I think we get 2 women. Otherwise, I don't think we get 2 women at all. So Sophie wins. And we were just talking about the blueprint to win a season as the mixed person, like as the returning favorite. That was the blueprint. Boston Rob said it. I know that Parvati had already won it, but I truly think that this was a bigger deal. Like I think that Rob did it and that was a bigger deal. So now we go and we look at Sophie, and she gives the blueprint for how to win as the non-returning favorite. She gives the blueprint of how to win as the person who's coming in and having to deal with the egos. It's hard to rank Sophie's game. It's a very invisible game from the editor perspective, but Sophie plays the exact style of Survivor that you need to play in order to win this kind of season. And she does it, and she does a masterful job of it, and she beats Coach at the end. And like, she doesn't get the flowers she probably deserves because she's not the most interesting. She's not the most compelling.
Right.
But she gives the blueprint for how to win this season.
Her burying Coach of Final Tribal, though, was just like chef's kiss. I'm so glad. I don't know if that was a difference maker at all, but I sure hope it was, because her revealing that idol find was just a bunch of like, they were praying but he already had it in his pocket. I'm like, just gold. I don't even know. Again, who knows if it made a difference, but like narratively, very satisfying to see that huge situation happen. Get, in a way, like you see Brandon's shocked face this season in the finale. I think Brandon was being legit. I don't think he can hide his emotions. I don't think he can fake his emotions. I don't think that's Brandon this season. His emotions are very real, no matter what emotion you're getting from him. So I don't know. Just narratively, they did not care for Sophie, but narratively satisfying that she wins at the same time. It's such a shame.
To me, I actually think that her win is one of the most important in Survivor history. And I know when I said that on the Patreon podcast, Will and Blake were both like, yeah, but I think most Survivor fans would have been more satisfied with a coach win or with an Aussie win.
No,
but
Aussie, maybe. Yeah.
I think most casual fans would have liked that more. But I think that this was so important to the show to prove that you could come out and play Survivor against these kinds of like legends and still win. And I know Danny had beaten Stephanie. That kind of felt like it was set up for Stephanie to win as well. And then it ends up being Danny who beats her in the end. But now we're into this era where all of a sudden, like you've said numerous times, Jeff takes over as the executive producer. That is a big deal. And so if Jeff is taking over as executive producer and the second season he takes over, Boston Rob gets his win, and the third season he takes over, now Coach or Ozzy are going to get theirs. That's not what people want to watch Survivor. They want to watch everybody who's on an even playing field. They don't want to just watch these people take victory laps. That's not what it's about. So I think Sophie's win is honestly so unbelievably important.
It just showed you that Jeff, from the time he took over, just didn't get what Survivor fans were wanting from the show, if that makes sense. Because I don't think Jeff, this is just my thought, based on all the preseason press, again, the extras on the DVDs are invaluable. They're edited, of course, but they're invaluable because it's so much stuff that like most fans don't know, and it gives you more insight. Like Jeff, I don't think Jeff chose what they did in Nicaragua, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. I'm sure he had decisions, but I don't think Nicaragua was his season. I think it was a Mark Burnett season. Redemption Island was his season. South Pacific was his season. One World was probably his season. Philippines was his season. You know, like you can tell when Jeff like kind of like takes over, and like that was his first season with Nicaragua. I don't think he made as many decisions as he did with Redemption Island. I almost feel like him and Mark were like trading seasons there. And then Mark finally just handed him the reins. Like, all right, looks like you can handle this. Go for it. Also, I'm doing Shark Tank and whatever other shows I'm doing now. So yes, this season, I'm not a big fan of the coach's cult. So for me, it's satisfying that Coach doesn't win, but I think Ozzy winning would have been satisfying as well. He was arrogant this season again, but it worked because he was the underdog. Ozzy, the arrogant, works when he's the underdog. That's why any arrogance you got to have him Cook Islands, it worked because like, oh, they mutinied. He's allowed to be arrogant now. You know, they mutinied. So Ozzy can be the way he is, but it doesn't work on Micronesia when he's never the underdog. It just is like he's making out with Amber. All right, sorry,
yeah, no, he's not making out with Amber. He's making out with Amanda.
That was Rob's job. No, he's making out with Amanda. You know, and it's like he's just not likable, except for when he does his fake idol.
I think there's something to be said for that though, because I think that's a very good observation. That when people who are in power, confidence is arrogance. When people aren't in power, confidence becomes the underdog story, and the arrogance becomes confidence. Like it goes the opposite way. And I do think that's interesting with Ozzy because at the beginning of the season, he comes across as such a baby. He's so hard to watch at the beginning of South Pacific. Like, I'm not going to do this then. I'm not going to do that. They're like, okay, Ozzy, go throw your tantrum. We don't care. And what's so funny is that you turn it around, and by the end of the season, most people are rooting for him to pull it out because they want this cult to get taken down because this cult is annoying to watch and it's boring to watch. So Ozzy does almost a 180, and it's true too in Cook Islands. He does the same thing. When Ozzy starts that season, he's throwing challenges to get rid of Billy, and he's
the big threat. Billy.
Yeah, he's acting like such an ass. You're kind of rolling your eyes going, ooh, I don't like this guy. But then by the end, when the I-24, you're saying, oh yeah, come on, baby. Get it done. Win another one, Ozzy. Win another one. And so it is this like this back and forth with Ozzy. And I felt that on 50. And I was lucky enough to talk to Ozzy a couple times during season 50.
Good.
And like, I literally told him, I'm like, you coming off Game Changers. I'm like, why are they putting you on? And now all of a sudden you're on this season. I'm like, oh my God, please play your idol. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, because Ozzy just has that personality where depending on the day, you either absolutely love him or you're like, oh, I hope he gets his. And I think that this is a season where you actually start rooting for him. But I do think it's much better that Sophie wins this season, because for Ozzy to win this season, that would mean Ozzy and Coach are both sitting at Final Three. And after watching Boston Rob steamroll, and then we get Ozzy and Coach at Final Three on another season that was an absolute steamroll, Survivor goes even darker than it is. Truly.
Yeah. I think the season is better received if Ozzy wins, but I'm with you on it's like, okay, so now Jeff really can quote unquote script a season to end the way he wants. Not maybe the whole season didn't go the way he wants, but it ends the way he wants. He wanted Rob to win. Of course he wanted Rob to win. And this season, of course he wants Ozzy to win. You just mentioned that on Redemption Island, the last challenge was the balancing foot thing. He does that on Blood versus Water, but this season's the pole, the thing Ozzy's infamously known for dominating. Like, what are the odds? And then with Edge of Extinction, people suspected he wanted Joe to win, and then Joe was like 2 seconds from beating Chris Underwood in that last challenge. And it's like when Jeff puts his finger on the scale, you can tell. But I will say Sophie. So Sophie, I think she's interesting as a character. I don't think the show's interested in telling her story. They're interested in telling Cochran's story, which, by the way, is even more apparent, Phil, in the secret scenes on the DVDs and in the recap episode, which everyone can watch, I think, on Paramount Plus. There's like so many cut Cochran scenes because they had so much Cochran they wanted to show us on top of what they already did. Brandon they're interested in, and then Coach Nazi. Of course, they're interested in Coach Nazi. I think Brandon's story this season's very interesting. I know that nowadays, like he's in jail or he's going to jail. I'm not 100% sure.
Arson, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Brandon, unfortunately, his real life story doesn't. At this point, is not what you would hope. But this season, I feel like Brandon was such an interesting character, and Cochran, of course, is Cochran. But yeah, I've really no, they weren't really focused on any women this season. And Sophie was like, she's interesting, but she's not upbeat. But that's like kind of this era, like they're casting villains, and Sophie kind of fits like almost like a teenager where she's kind of like over it, but being sarcastic, but also like whatever, you guys do whatever you want. I don't know. It's Courtney almost from Cook China a little bit, not the same, but it's got that Courtney vibes. I like Sophie. They're just not interested in telling your story.
Yeah, there's something that isn't able to connect with a general audience from Sophie. And that's what the problem was. It's almost like Sophie was a little ahead of her time. I think people reacted more positively to Sophie on Winners at War. I think especially when you're bringing back Coach and you're bringing back Ozzy, you're saying we want honor and integrity. We want your big, bad athletes. We don't want a sassy New York 21-year-old. Like, that's not what we want.
Then don't cast them. That's how I feel. Don't cast them then if you don't want
and that's the thing. I look at that cast and I say to myself, man, how did Sophie slip by? But again, this is where the casting was being designed for the returning players to win on these 2 seasons. The cast of Redemption Island is the worst of all time. And if you look at this cast, they did not cast Sophie to win. They cast Sophie to be a wallflower, to be background fodder. And she accidentally won the game. And now they had to tell her story. And like you said, they weren't interested in telling it.
Like Natalie White, she was not cast to win that season. She was cast to be one of the dumb blondes, quote unquote, as Russell called them.
Exactly. And I think that is a problem, but I think that's also why it was important, because it said to the producers, you can't just keep casting morons and hope that the morons are going to be as moronic as you think they are, and you're going to base your story around these 2. And you see it again in One World, even though there's no returning players on One World. You see in One World, they cast a lot of people who have no idea what the hell is going on because they want to prop up 2 or 3 really big personalities. Then in Philippines, the casting changes again because the casting was so bad in this era. And if you go and you look at Philippines, Malcolm is a legitimate threat to win. RC is a legitimate threat to win. Pete is a legitimate threat to win.
Denise, of course.
Denise obviously is a legitimate threat to win. She does win. Like, there's so many more legitimate threats. Jeff Kent was a legitimate threat to win that season. There's so many more legitimate threats, which you don't have in season 22 and season 23. And Sophie was not put on there to be a legitimate threat. She was put on there because she wasn't going to eat up a lot of screen time and she wasn't going to be too confrontational. And it actually worked so hard against production because Sophie was so non-confrontational and kept it all in for so long that she was able to appeal to a jury that then ultimately gives her the $1 million over Coach.
Yeah. I feel like I could spend all day talking about the poor production decisions, but I will say that the cast, so Phil, you might know more than I do, but Lynn Spillman's casting here. But I never at any point think Lynn Spillman's completely in charge of casting. I think she's given direction and she fulfills the direction she's given. because she cast 38 seasons and it doesn't feel like every season is the same cast. Like there are archetypes, sure, but I almost feel like she's being directed. And then when I watch interviews of Jesse Tannenbaum and I hear, because he does multiple shows, including Survivor, and it's like I hear him talk about how he casts, and I will mention the show every time, Amazing Race, but he casts other seasons as well, shows as well, and he talks about Survivor. And every time he talks about Survivor, he talks about how hands-on Jeff is, which he doesn't really talk about the other shows. And it's like interesting, and like it gets good or bad. Jeff having his hands, and I don't know how much his hands were dirty this season. I don't know how much more he was getting. Like, I don't know if it elevated as he was executive producer or what, but yeah, I almost wonder, was Lynn Spillman fired because he wanted more control? Do you know?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, that might not be what they said, but yes, absolutely. Yeah. And what's really funny is the first season Jeff ever cast is the first time a player was ever kicked off the show.
And people will say, "Oh, he was going to be on a different season." Yeah, but he wasn't.
But he wasn't
on that. He wasn't on the other season. They just considered him.
And that's what's so interesting here. Like, I think you're right. I think Lynn Spillman was always in charge of casting, but obviously Survivor's not rigged and it's never been rigged.
No.
Like Survivor is one of those things where you can start to say, hey, what story do we want to tell in this era? When we do Cook Islands, we're going to put an incredibly intelligent Asian man on this season. And maybe that's the story we want to tell.
Mm-hmm.
Like that, we don't want a bunch of cowboys on this season. We want more Yules. I think that's why you get Yule and you get Brad on that season and you get Becky on that season. I think they're showing them as the more intelligent, more sophisticated version of what like Asian culture can be. Cowboy is not where you want it to go, but you're going to throw a cowboy in, right? Same thing with what are you doing with the Caucasian tribe? We're going to have Jonathan, who's the writer. We're going to have Adam, who's the good-looking young guy. We got the medical student. We got the female boxer, and we got this weird. And we got this weird chick named Flicka. And so you think about what story they want to tell. They actually want to tell the story of the best version of each of those cultures. They're trying to find the best person. And so when they're casting this season, they're saying to themselves, well, what story do we want to tell? Well, we want to tell the story most likely of how Coach won, how Ozzy won, or we want to tell the story of how Coach lost and how Ozzy lost. Yeah. And so you're not worrying as much about the people you're putting around in the background. It's very interesting because when you see it, of course, Cochran's going to be there. You got to have a massive fan to sit there on a tribe with either Ozzy or Coach. Of course, Brandon Hance is going to be there because he's related to Russell. Everybody else, they could give in two shits. Yeah. They did not care. They cast the least interesting version of almost every single archetype on South Pacific and Redemption Island, which is crazy. And I will say this, I've met Albert quite a few times. He actually played baseball at the school I used to work at. So like it was funny to see his name pop up and stuff. And when I was living in Miami, I saw him a couple times. Albert really is like a strategic guy, but they wanted the Albert that was 23 years old, who was more cocky than strategic, because they knew that he's not beating Coach or Ozzy. Like that's what they wanted. And so I feel like that's what we got a lot of on this season. So I'm so happy Sophie won that season. Yeah. I really am. And I love Coach. I mean, he's an all-timer, but I'm very happy that it's ultimately Sophie who wins. And I think she does a masterclass of just dealing with bullshit. How can you sit there? Can you shut up for 39 days to win $1 million? That is the question that Sophie was asked. And she said, yes, I can.
And unlike Kenzie Petty in 46, she didn't get help at that immunity challenge. She asked Albert. Well, I don't know if she really asked. She told Albert to come over and help her, and just like, no, if you want to beat Ozzy, you got to beat Ozzy. But then,
which by the way, if it was like
when it's time to beat who, Maria, that's fine. That's fine.
And I'll be honest with you, if it was like Coach yelling at Ozzy, hey, come pick up my stuff so we can beat Sophie, Jeff would have been like, they're working together. Who would have thought?
Yes. Oh man. So Sophie won in spite of all the things that were there to make her lose, such as Ozzy on Redemption Island. So Redemption Island period was designed. I mean, Ozzy was dominating our challenge. Dominating. I will say, though, I will give credit to the show. I do think the Redemption Island itself was structured better this time than it was last time. Like, it didn't eat as much unnecessary time. They didn't keep so many people in the game. I think like they would build up to 3 people, and then Ozzy would eliminate 2 of them. It was never every single episode, let's eliminate 1 of the 3. Like they did on season 22. Like they get, so I think the narratively was better for it. But that was like production decisions. Also, they're back in Samoa, and it's a more beautiful location than Nicaragua. Unfortunately, they'll never go back to Samoa after One World I think Samoa is like a legit location. I know Australian Survivor still uses it, so it's definitely. Yeah. I think it's why they don't go to it. Also, Fiji probably gives them better benefits, but yeah, it's a good location. It's nothing like special, but it's prettier than Nicaragua. The location in Nicaragua that they go to during the time of year they go to, I'm sure that Nicaragua is beautiful. It's just not the part of it they picked or the time of year. So
yeah. Let me say this about her best move.
Okay, yeah, I was gonna say best move, worst move.
Because last time I tried to like push back a little bit when we talked about like Fabio, what was his best move, and you're like being this, being that, and I tried to be like, well, here's a move, like an actual tribal council move. I think Sophie's best move is just going along for the ride. I really do, and I kind of taking the cop out. Yeah, it's the same thing you said with Fabio. I pushed back a little bit with Fabio, but like I do think that Sophie being willing to take a back seat and just align herself with Coach, align herself with Albert, align herself with Rick, like do what she had to do. I think being willing to kind of just like put your entire belief system on the back burner so that you are in this alliance, it's the best move she could have made. And it works out brilliantly for her because it gets her to the end and nobody ever sees her as a threat because she just sits there and sticks to the plan and just keeps on going. And I seriously do think it's like, I think it's a beautiful thing. I think it's an all season kind of move, but she has to sit back and say, sure, I'll let you guys be weird towards Michaela. Sure. I'll let you guys bark out orders about this. I'm just going to go along with it. And she does a great job of that.
I want to say too, for those who can watch the Ponderosa videos, that this is a good season for Ponderosa videos. Like there is interesting stuff, especially the Keith Whitney relationship is more developed on Ponderosa, where I've talked about in my video, so I don't want to get too much into that because we're here to talk about Sophie. But the Ponderosa videos here are one of those seasons where like you actively can see the jury who they're rooting for, and at one point it is Coach, and their minds being changed. You see that you see it a little bit on Samoa. So I wouldn't say good. Like there are good seasons for Ponderosa videos, and then there are dull seasons. We're gonna talk about Philippines. Super dull Ponderosa season. Oh my gosh, like boring. But One World, all the entertainment was in the Ponderosa. Apparently, the season itself didn't have it. It was Ponderosa. They were all entertaining on Ponderosa. What the heck? With South Pacific, a good season for Ponderosa videos. Just it's so weird. It doesn't depend on the quality season. It depends on the drama at Ponderosa. So.
Yeah,
I know. It's a good season for Ponderosa for sure.
Well, that's good to know. I mean, so what do you? So I hope they didn't mention it at Ponderosa, but what's her worst move?
Worst move, Sophie. I think, Albert he got immunity from Brandon. I think Albert's supposed to go there. I don't know if that helps Sophie's game. Like, worst move is attempting out Albert where she did. Albert was a goat to be dragged, and she was ready to get rid of Albert. Like, I think Brandon, I don't know if Brandon wins. I know, like, Jim said it. Also, I don't put too much stock into Jim's perception. Let's put it that way. I've heard Jim talk when he was like trying to get on Cambodia, and I listened to Jim and I thought, does he watch Survivor? And I'm like, this guy was on Survivor. So that's my thoughts on Jim. He says Brandon would have won, but like, I don't know.
I don't buy that Brandon wins that season. I know people try to say that all the time. I don't buy that at all.
I think I'm not saying Brandon doesn't have a shot, but I just don't put too much stock in what Jim says. So when I hear Jim said that, I'm like, okay, but can I hear the rest of the jury? Because I don't know if I believe this. I think trying to get out Albert, she failed to do it because Albert tricks Brandon, but trying to get Albert was a mistake. I think Albert was always meant to go to the final three and be a GOAT.
Yeah. I think it's also what's interesting in this entire stretch, because we have Slimatone saying this right here. 19 Natalie, 20 Sandra, 21 Fabio, 23 Sophie, huge run of just going along for the ride. It's hard to have like all of those players. We've had a hard time saying this was their worst move because they're not really making many moves. And I think Sophie kind of falls into that same boat. Like, I agree with you. Trying to get rid of Albert is a bad move because you're getting down to it. And it's like Brandon, Rick, Coach, and Ozzy all have more win equity than Albert. But like, it's also one of those things where when Sophie's not in control and she's not making an abundance of moves, how do you really know what her worst move is? And so that's where it's like very interesting to me when we try to name their worst move on some of these players. When you're going along for the ride and you're being agreeable, you're not really making moves. It's other people who are doing it. Sophie votes correctly, if I'm not mistaken, at every single tribal council, except for when Michaela goes, because I think she was pretty much taking a stand saying, I don't like Brandon as a person.
She doesn't vote for Christine when Christine goes. She votes for Stacy. By the way, Stacy, fantastic casting. Every secret scene of Stacy, there are secret scenes of Stacy that are fantastic. I'm like, this should have been in the show. That's what I mean. Like, that's what you were saying too. Like, they're just not interested in telling other people's stories that aren't their main 4. Stacy was fantastic 4 episodes. She was there, and on Ponderosa. I mean, sorry, and on on Real Sound. She doesn't. Okay, so listen, she votes for Stacy when Christine goes. She votes for Edna.
A split vote. That was a split vote.
It was 4-3-1-1. She votes
Christine and Stacy, but that was purposeful. If they voted, Christine had an idol. That's what she was. Rick, Edna, and her were all voting for Stacy purposefully there in case.
I hear you. Sorry, it's been a little while since I've watched season. Michaela, she votes for Edna on the Michaela vote. Is that what you said was the one vote she was out of?
I think she's wrong on that one. I don't know if that was a full split. I think she's wrong there.
No, it's just 4-3. She's just wrong. But then after that, she votes for Keith. She votes for Ozzy. Votes for Jim, Dawn, Whitney, Cochran, Edna, Brandon, Rick, Ozzy. So the only vote she's not in on is the Michaela vote.
And winning that challenge over Ozzy at Final Four when it's like designed for Ozzy to win, like just incredible. Yeah, that's the game-winning half-court shot, man. Like just incredible gameplay by Sophie there.
Once she won that, I remember when I watched this first time, I thought Coach could win, but then the moment Coach opens his mouth Final Travel, you're like, he can't win. He's just literally not saying anything the correct way. And nothing's changed through 50, in my opinion, by the way. I think Coach still did not learn what he did wrong.
I think Coach maybe his worst game ever on 50, honestly.
Yeah. I just feel like Coach never got better ever. So, but it was very encouraging to see Ozzy on 50 be better than he was, even if he's still Ozzy as a person. Like you can only do so much. Like I can only be so good as myself on Survivor. Like no matter how much I learn, I'm still myself. It was nice to see Ozzy make that progression. Sophie, again, I think I don't know if she was better in Winners at War, but she was definitely more confident, and it showed.
Yeah, I think she was better on Winners at War, and she gets voted out with the Idol because she honestly was a threat.
Yeah, and which she was never viewed as a threat this season.
No.
Yeah.
And that's why she wins. And this was the era of people. Really, this was the era of putting a lot of men on the show who didn't think that women had any chance of beating them. And then a bunch of men on the show who never thought a man like Fabio could beat them. Yeah. And that's really what this was the era of. This was the era of a lot of it, like aggressive male testosterone energy who thought like alpha beat my chest stuff. Like that's what they thought.
And with the exception of Boston Rob, it's just like time after time proven that's not the way to win.
Yeah.
I would, we get all the way through what? Tyson. Yeah, I would say all the way through Tyson. Tyson was not beat my chest. I'm a man. Oh. Yeah. Tony. But Tony was not, that wasn't a gender thing. Tony's just nuts. We'll talk about Tony next week.
Yeah, Tony just Tony was beating his chest because everybody in that season wanted to beat their chest and he wanted to be the loudest gorilla, dude. Like that's all it was. He didn't care.
That's all that was.
Yeah.
Well, Sophie, so anyways, a few stats we haven't talked about yet. How far was she from a perfect game? Sophie was 8 votes off a perfect game, missed 3 votes at Final Tribal that Coach got. Also got 5 votes against her during the season. Which were so like Rick voted for her on his way out the door. Brandon votes for her on his way out the door, though also Albert votes for her when Brandon goes out the door. Cause Albert, wasn't that like he promised Brandon so that like technically,
and then he pretended that he didn't know Brandon was going home.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So just nonsense. So Sophie 8 votes off a perfect game. It sounds about right. I mean, like, again, I'm not going to sit here and be like perfect game's the only way to define it, but I think it's impressive when you get it or if you're like a vote off. Like, I actually give you more credit, but I'll never be like, oh, Ben Driebergen is the worst with 14. Like, I'm not going to sit here and be like, he's the worst because he has 14. But I will say that, like, I think it's impressive to have that stat be close or just nail it. Yeah. So nobody that we're talking about in this section is going to be close.
And Kim, who we're going to get to next, she's not close because again, people just start being like, well, why don't we just vote for Kim? But even Kim's not that far off. But anyway, the one thing I have to say about Sophie before I move on, because we talk about, can Fabio win again? No, I don't think so. And I don't think a Fabio type can win, especially in the new era, because I think that they get viewed as a character. I think Ben Katzman falls into that. I think Boston Rob win again? No. That's the blueprint for on this mixed type season. I don't think Boston Rob can ever win again. No. And I think if you come out too aggressive on a mixed type season now, they'll probably try to vote you out. Aubrey just won by playing Sophie's game.
Yes. Yeah. I think a lot of people have won playing the Sophie game that we've talked about so far and we'll talk about in the future. There is a lot of value to just kind of just chilling and letting people just outplay themselves. Outplay, outlast. Sometimes you just got to let other people outplay themselves and then just outlast them. This season, Phil, where do you think it ranks out of 50?
I don't know, like 40?
34. Okay. It is right above 42 and right below Guatemala. Okay. I think it's better than Guatemala.
I don't know about that.
You don't know about that?
No,
yeah, like fans agree with you.
I think Guatemala is great. I think South Pacific is better. I think South Pacific is far and away the best of this stretch. Mm-hmm. I think South Pacific gets lumped in with these 4 seasons. I think it's much better than One World, Redemption Island, and Nicaragua, but it's still a lower tier season for me.
Where do you think Sophie as a winner falls out of 50?
37.
No, she's actually higher. She's number 30.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, number 30.
We have her
below your girl, Michelle Fitzgerald.
I will tell you what, man. We are not far off from that exact same scenario. The exact same scenario, everybody. If you're listening now, you're getting a little tease for maybe a couple episodes from now. We are not far off from that exact same scenario in our rankings.
Well, you ready to do One World and Kim Spradlin?
Well, let me say let me just say again one last thing here. If you are a woman going to play New Era Survivor and Jeff is going to throw as much bullshit at you as he's going to, this is the game to emulate. And I want to end on that note. Sophie's game is the one to emulate. Big
Brother has the same problem where they throw so much crap at people. People just play it safe instead. I know because I watched 4 or 5 Big Brother seasons like live, and all I thought when they were throwing crap at them, I'm like, they're just going to play it safe because why would I want to interact with the nonsense? And I know Survivor gets to edit it to make it look like people want to interact with the nonsense, and maybe they do, but I feel like there's a lot of people saying I don't want to interact with the nonsense that isn't being shown on the show.
Yep.
And Jeff just puts his fingers in his ears and ignores that,
it's Aubrey just won the season by being incredibly passive and doing that on purpose.
Ignoring the nonsense. Tommy wins by ignoring the nonsense. Just ignore the nonsense. Play basic fundamental Survivor. Ignore to the best of your ability. Stay out of the nonsense. You don't want to do.
Don't go on a journey because either you're going to lose your vote or you're going to pick something up and people are going to view you as a threat.
Yeah. Very rarely does the journey actually help you. Very rarely. For something that happens 4 times a season, you think they would have figured that out by now. But
yeah, I know.
Nope.
All right, now we're on to One World.
Yeah, Kim Spradlin.
I mean, generally revered as a top 5 winner, and there's really no arguing it, right?
I want to say that this season, the twist is 10 out of 10 fantastic. I love this twist. I think it's a shame it's this season's the way it plays out because I think it's why they never bring it back. Unlike Blood versus Water, unlike Fans vs. Favorite, stuff like that. This is a fantastic twist. 1000% they should bring this twist back and do it again. I think this is primed for Blood versus Water. I know you and I have said.
Have you seen this?
What?
That people think it's happening on Survivor 51 because the rumor is it's a 21 person cast.
I think if it's like you and I said the other week where if they do it on 51, it's just gonna be for like a day or 2 before they pick their tribes or they draw buffs or whatever. I don't think it's going to be a season-long twist or a pre-merge long twist. I do think this is a fantastic twist, and I think the 4 episodes that they do this twist this season are the best 4 episodes of the season, and it's not even close. People hate Colton because he's in those episodes, but Colton's a fantastic villain because he's a villain that has power and does something you don't like, namely Bill, but he loses, so it works. Colton, I don't like Colton, but I think Colton plus One World, the twist was fantastic TV. The fact that they ended the One World twist right after the men send themselves to tribal is like, why? No, plan B, keep One World going. What are you doing? The men just sent themselves to tribal. Why are you shooting yourselves in the foot? I know it's because they're like, well, we need to separate them so the merge feels special. No,
and especially on this season with 18 people, keep them as 2 tribes all the way down to 10. Keep them as 2 tribes all the way down to 8. Who cares?
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. If the 51 is, and I don't want to date this podcast too much because I want it to be evergreen, but if 51 is does do One World like legit, I'm all for it. I haven't heard this, Phil. I see why people would suspect that, but I just haven't even heard Survivor be interested in this idea again.
Yeah.
Where I feel like blood versus water gets casually thrown around. Like it's going to happen, even though it only happened twice in a matter of 1 year. And it was like over 10 years ago, but One World isn't casually thrown around the same way. So I would love for One World to happen again. I do think the season, though, what a dud cast, the men specifically. But the thing is, I like Sabrina. I mean, I don't think Kim's super interesting as a character. She's presented as she's a divorced woman finding her way in this world in the preseason press. I think on the season as well. I forget if that was in the season proper. There's a secret scene where her and I forget the lady she's good friends with, even to this day. Chelsea, thank you. She gets third place. I just remember Sabrina more. I like Sabrina more. Her and Chelsea like decide before Final Tribal, let's go take a swim or go take a bath in the water well, because if we look prettier, people will want to vote for us. And I'm like, that's actually not a bad idea. It's gross that you do it in the water well, but I guess it is the last day and it's your water well.
Yeah.
It's clean water. I mean, it's clean water. So
not anymore.
I don't think Kim's very interesting, but I think strategically, holy crap, did she own this season? And I'm more impressed because it's her first time.
So here's the deal. Troyzan, massive Survivor fan. Massive.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Colton, massive Survivor fan.
For better or worse, yes.
Kim is a pretty big Survivor fan from what I understand. And Sabrina was a pretty big Survivor fan from what I understand.
Yeah, I believe
that is the extent of it for these 18 people.
Oh, Sabrina got cast because they were actually trying to recruit a different Sabrina, and then they found her instead. So actually, she was recruited, Phil. Not that saying she wasn't a fan.
Okay, so
I'm not saying she wasn't a fan, but she was definitely recruited.
My point is, there's like nobody who actually understands Survivor on this season, and I always say Kim's best move was voting out Troyzan when she did. Now, granted, everybody's ready to get rid of Troyzan, right? I mean, this is at Final 8, whatever.
Like, well, he does own Samoa. That's why they don't go back, Phil. They didn't want to pay him for Samoa. So he owns this island. He owns this island, and he rents it out to Australian Survivor every year now.
But like, the thing is, Sabrina votes for Christina at that tribal council that Troyzan goes. But getting rid of Troyzan there, that's the last threat to Kim's game. And I know people might laugh at that, especially after game changers, whatever. Troyzan has a lot of win equity on this season. Troyzan actually does have a very good mind for Survivor as the game.
Right.
And that was her biggest adversary. The reason why it sucks and why this season sucks is he goes home at Final 8 and you're like, oh, okay, well, whatever. Now you could also say, her best move is voting out Jay in episode 9.
What a boring episode that was. I almost fell asleep watching episode 9. It's the only episode
The
only episode I've almost ever fallen asleep of watching Survivor was Jay's episode.
Well, and the problem with that is like, it's not really Kim's move, because Jay just runs over and tells her when Troyzan said everything correct and said, hey, don't go tell Kim, I'm going to play an idol for myself since they're trying to vote me out. This is perfect.
Yeah.
And then Jay's like, what if I go blab? And Jay gets put out. Like, it is the dumbest group of men to ever play Survivor. It's actually insane. And so when I rank Kim, who I do revere Kim's game, and again, I'm not going to reveal what place I have her at, but I will say this. Every single one of us, we did 4 different lists to combine to make our one list. We all ranked her in the top 10. Okay. And nobody had her at 10. So I'm giving that much away. At least she is a single digit for everybody. But when you look at it, it's like, is it the best game if her competition is the One World cast? And that is something that I do hold against her a little bit. I do believe that Todd beating a cast like China's cast is more impressive. I think Tony beating a cast like he did in Cagayan is more impressive. This is a cast that is loaded with people who have no idea what's going on in any way, shape, or form. They follow Kim to the slaughter, one after the other. And yes, some of it is good gameplay by Kim, but some of it is just people being horrible at Survivor.
I think it's what you're saying earlier. Of course, this is all suspicions, but if you look at the cast post Heroes versus Villains, they were recruiting, obviously. Obviously, like Courtney had never seen Survivor when she went on China. They were recruiting. They've always been recruiting. I don't know if they recruited well, of course they did season 1. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sure they've recruited every season, but it became more obvious from 21 onwards when they were recruiting and who they were recruiting. And this is almost like Jeff's like writing out the archetypes he wants and the people he wants. I don't know who Jeff was wanting to win the season. Maybe it was Troy Zan. Like, I'm trying to figure out, was it a Michael? Was it a Matt? I don't know. I don't think I'm just trying to like imagine, like, what was he telling Lynn Spillman to cast? Because all of a sudden Lynn Spillman goes from making banger after banger after banger casts, right? Like Fiji was a miss, but I think Cook Islands was a huge hit. Panama was like half that cast was gold. And it's like she was from 12 through 20 was just banging out good casts. Guatemala had some good people. Like Palau had a good, like she was just making Vanuatu. Like Lynn Spillman knew what she was doing, and all of a sudden magically doesn't look like she knows what she's doing with 21. It's like, okay, I wonder what changed again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and this felt like
cast when she's been doing it so well for so long.
To me, this was a hookup season, right? Like that was the point. You have one world, it's men versus women, but they're going to start on the same island. So yeah, you have Tarzan, and yes, you have Nina. But then you have Monica, who's an older woman who's gorgeous. You have Troy Zan, who's the older guy who's good looking as anything. So those are 2-year-olds. So you have your kooky older people, and then you have that, and then you're going to have Colton, who's going to be the shit stirring gay man. That's what they were going for.
They knew that. There was no
And then you have Leaf, where they wanted to cast the first little person. So there's Leaf. He's on the season, and everything else, they're pretty much like, hey, what if we get like people who are like good looking? Like, look at the women on this season. Yeah. You have Kat, you have Alicia, you have Christina, you have Chelsea, you have Kim, you have Sabrina. That is a very, very, very good looking group of women. And I'm not even getting into Monica or Courtney, who's kind of like your quirky, edgier person. You have Matt, you have Michael, you have Jay. These are literal models. That is what they are doing. And so even Bill is a really good looking guy. It felt like they wanted to make a hookup season. And that's why you're getting the divorced woman who owns a bridal shop or whatever it was that Kim owned at the time. And she just happens to be a lot smarter than everybody else. But that's what they were going for. I think when they were casting this season, they were trying to do it as, not saying it's the TV show, but they wanted it to be Love Island. It was one world, but they wanted it to be everybody hooking up. And like, what happens if there's a showmance across tribes? That's what they wanted. It's not what they got. But that is, right, I think, what they were going for. And that's why most of this cast, it was like, good, you're good looking, come on out. Like Michael Jefferson, Jay, what planet were they on when they stepped onto the show?
Yeah, it's a great question. I'm trying to figure out where Jeff was as a person at the time. I don't think he was married yet, because I think that changes him. I think when he gets married and has his stepchildren, I think that's correct, because they're not his children, but they're his wife's children. I think that changes like how he runs the show a little bit up till this day. Of course, we all do as we grow over time. Like I wouldn't have done things 10 years ago that I do today, or vice versa, or whatever. But I was looking real quick. I'm like, because I think this is about the time he does his talk show. But actually, this season is filmed before his talk show. Yes,
the talk show comes around, I think, right after this.
Because we're talking about the way they cast, and I'm like, I wonder if him being so like, was he sucking up to Hollywood to get his talk show at this time? Like I wonder how deep this thread goes.
I think it was the next season, because they get Lisa Whelchel, they get Jeff Kent, and that's when the casting starts going that direction.
Yeah, it gets better with Philippines for sure, but it does feel like 4 seasons in a row. It's like, what were they thinking? They clearly were thinking something. I wonder what that was. What was the approach here? How much was Lynn Spillman being told to do things differently than before? Or was there someone there who was saying no to things that is no longer there? That's what I'm kind of wondering. Like, maybe I'm not like I say and be like, Jeff's the fault of everything, because that's not true. But at the same time, it's like something changed. Is Mark no longer as involved? And Mark was the one saying he wanted certain things, and that was what was working. Now he's gone doing other things. Like something's missing, and I don't know what it is, but it's like, it affects our perception of these seasons, and affects, I know we're here to talk about the winners specifically, but like Kim would be more impressive, as you said, against like cast like China. It's like, okay, why didn't they cast a cast like China? What changed? What's different? Because it seems like they kind of tried to reverse that with Philippines. But there's at this time also, Phil, this is around the time the budget cuts are starting to happen. I know they've always been there. That's why I started doing back-to-back with Simone, Nick, Heroes vs. Villains. I know you know that. Mm-hmm. But Jeff openly said, I have this as well. This is actually on the internet. You don't have to have the DVDs for this. Jeff said around the time of Caramel, and he's like, we keep having less money. Things are more expensive and we have less money. Eventually, we're just going to need to buy an island and call it Survivor Island to do the show on there because it's not sustainable to keep going to all these new locations all the time. Jeff said that, and I'm paraphrasing, but he said that around the time of Caramoan, and this is right before that. I don't know. It just makes me curious. And also, they lose their main composer after 27. I forgot.
It all started falling apart.
Russ Landau, they lose them. Yep. So,
it all started falling apart.
Yeah, well, and streaming services started taking off around the time. So it's just a lot of things are changing. It's like, why did the season suck? It's not budget. I'll tell you that. So we can talk about budget, but it's not budget. Kim, though, what's her worst move? What's her best move? Her worst move is hard for me to pinpoint. I remember making her video. I'm like, Kim doesn't really screw up anywhere. Like, she angers some people, I guess, that go on the jury. 2 people do vote for Sabrina at the end of the day. You know, it's I'm talking like it's Troyzan and Leaf vote for Sabrina. She definitely angers Troyzan. That was very apparent on the season.
Yeah.
But what was she supposed to do? Not vote him out? That's the only thing that would have made him happy. Troyzan was incorrigible to Kim and vice versa.
Yeah. I mean, when I look at it, like, what is her worst move? I mean, she goes to 1 tribal council in the pre-merge, and then she hits the post-merge and votes out Jonas, votes out Michael, votes out Jay, votes out Leaf, votes out Troyzan. Like,
she plays it perfectly.
She plays it perfectly. And I would say her worst move is what happens during the Jay episode, where word gets around and she actually is in danger of going home potentially there because Troyzan's going to vote for Kim. And had she not been playing with the dumbest group to ever play, she ends up probably going home there because Troyzan plays the idol. He plays the idol anyway. He only negates 1 vote, though, because Jay goes and spills the beans to get himself voted out of the game. But they were ready to go and vote for Troyzan, and word got to Troyzan. So that's probably her worst move. But her social game was good enough that she was able to get the information back to her that this is what was going to happen.
Yeah. So Kim is 5 votes off a perfect game, misses those 2 for Sabrina, and along the way gets 3 rogue votes here and there for her. Looks like 1 was at that J vote that you mentioned, and then the other 2 are at the Leaf vote. But like, Kim was never in danger.
No, I
mean, Kim was never in danger. Plays perfectly. Is against an all newbie cast. Her best move is almost every move she makes. A definitive best move of Kim. I'm with you. Troyzan. Once Troyzan goes, it's just knock out them in any order. Tarzan was not getting the respect of the jury if he reached final 3. There's no way the men were voting for Tarzan. I think they still voted Kim over Tarzan.
Oh, 100%. Nobody cared that Tarzan was even there. I mean, Tarzan was a weird guy.
Yeah, Tarzan didn't have the respect of the men. It wasn't like if Troyzan had immunity his way to the end, Troyzan wins.
Hands down. Yeah.
But I don't know if he wins. Like, I'm not sure saying he wins in a. I can't even say he like, what's the jury at that point if Troyzan's there? Let's say Troyzan replaces Sabrina. You know
what it is, though?
She was so close to Chelsea, she wouldn't turn on Chelsea, I think.
They're all so pissed at that point that they all got voted out and that they got backstabbed and that they weren't there, that even if Troyzan, but Kim would have been gone by then. And clearly the jury didn't respect Sabrina's game enough. I think Troyzan wins that pretty much hands down.
I'm just saying, if Christina goes instead of Troyzan at his vote, because it's 4-3-1, it was close. Mm-hmm. Who's the off vote there? 4-3-1.
Sabrina.
Somebody votes for Chelsea. No, it wasn't. No, somebody votes for Chelsea instead of Christina. Who was that? It was
Christina.
Christina votes for. Gosh, Christina. Well, I mean, I could for her. No, because Christina would never have voted for herself. She would have voted for Troyzan, so it would have been 5-3 instead of 4-3-1. Okay. Yeah. So let's say Christina goes somehow instead of Troyzan. If Troyzan could have immunity his way through the Cat vote, the Tarzan vote, the Alicia vote, and instead of Christina going that because she's already gone at Troyzan, it ends up being Chelsea or Sabrina, probably Sabrina.
And what's crazy,
maybe Kim plays fire at 4. I don't think Chelsea flips on Sabrina, flips on Kim. I think Troyzan wants Kim gone, but I think Kim ends up making fire at 4 is the worst to happen to her. Does she win fire? I guess.
And the thing that's crazy about when Troyzan goes, he makes the pitch to Kat that they're going to vote her out next and that she's done and that he should flip with him and vote out Christina. And it ends up being 100% accurate. And it was 1 vote because he found out that Sabrina, that they were going to try to split the votes just in case Troyzan had an idol. Mm-hmm. And he tries to convince Kat and Kat doesn't go along with it. And had Kat gone along with it, Christina goes home there, and now all of a sudden the women's alliance starts to go down a little bit.
Yeah.
And yes, Troyzan is still just there, and Tarzan still isn't gonna, maybe Tarzan plays with him, but now Troyzan has some legs and he can get something going. But Troyzan was the only competition for for Kim from final 18 onward. It was only Troyzan.
I just can't see Kat, Tarzan, Alicia, or Christina winning at the end against Kim.
And Leach never wins, Jay never wins, Michael never wins, Jonas never wins, Colton never wins, Monica never wins, Bill never wins, Matt never wins, Nina never wins, Courtney never wins. It is Kim.
Yeah, it really is. It really is Kim. Kim just dominates. And very impressive. Best move is almost every move she makes. Is there to fit? I mean, I guess Troyzan, as we just said. All right, sorry, we said that Troyzan's best move. Just very impressive. Kim's win. She's not super entertaining as a character for me personally, but I cannot deny her strategic game is just like top notch. I aspire to play Survivor as well as Kim played Survivor here. I aspire for people to fall over backwards to do dumb things. Well, actually, I guess JT, because people fell over backwards to want him to win. That's just such an anomaly. I don't see that happening again. Kim winning seems possible. I don't know if Kim herself can win again, but I feel like her game can be replicated. We've seen bad casts in the new era who just don't seem competent overall at the game in the post-merge. For example, 49. I don't think the 49 cast was very good at the game Survivor. 48 as well. Why those seasons were not as good. It just didn't seem like the cast knew. I don't know. It didn't seem like they wanted to play Survivor, knew how to play. I don't know what the word is for that. But yeah, I think Kim's style can win again. I just don't think Kim herself could win again. Kim kind of hurt her legacy a little bit. All-returnee season.
Yeah, Kim hurt her legacy a little bit during Winners at War. And my thing is, if you ask me, who's the best, what's the best winning game, I rank Kim higher than I do Kim as a player at this point.
Also, I want to mention, I said the Ponderosa videos for the season were good. That's only when Troyzan shows up. Jonas is not interesting on Ponderosa. Neither is Michael J. or Leaf. Okay. It's really from Troyzan through Christina are good Ponderosa videos for those wondering. It gets really good when Kat gets there, but it starts good at Troyzan. Just for those looking if you can watch them somewhere.
Well, and you know what the other crazy thing is?
Yeah.
When one of my favorites from that is when Kat gets there and he's just like, remember when I told you this was gonna, and he's just like, it's kind of brutal, but it's also not brutal. Yeah. It's
the second half of the Ponderosa. Ponderosa is almost like its own separate season / show. That's why I said it's not as dependent on, it's not whether the season's good for Ponderosa, because next season Philippines is a great season, but Ponderosa is so boring. But this season Ponderosa is good. So Kim definitely top 10 winner for me, but for the fans, where do you think she ranks?
I mean, I would hope she's 5.
16. I don't agree with that, by the way. Last year she was 14.
That's crazy.
I don't agree with that either. I really feel, I think a lot of people say they don't like her as a character, because how I do the form is, do you like them as a character? Do you like their strategy? Or do you like both? Or do you not like anything about them? And a lot of people put that they like her strategy, but they don't like her character, if that makes sense. They don't find her interesting as a character, because I think there's value and I find somebody interesting as a character. The season, though, number 48, I know I said that earlier. So her being so much better than her season, again, there's that gap. It's the winner is way better than the season. It's not if the season was better, I think it would elevate Kim too. I think that drags down her and Rob is that the seasons were just boring to watch. Had she played the same game and won some, which I think is a better season, then I think her win's better, if that makes sense. I'm not saying against Russell. I'm just saying on a season that we generally view better, I think Kim's win is elevated in the rankings. Same with Boston Rob. But if Boston Rob wins All-Stars, like you said, not a great season, but a better season, especially if Rob wins it.
Every player that I have ranked ahead of Kim, I like their season infinitely more than I like Kim's season. It's hard not to. One World just sucks after episode 4. So, and honestly, that can be a tiebreaker. That's totally fair. I'm always satisfied watching Todd win. Yeah. And a big thing too is people can put who their favorite winner is and least favorite, and that's bonus points. Or if it's least favorite, it takes points away. Kim doesn't get a lot of worse winners. She does get some good winners, like favorite winners. But I think when people say favorite winners, they're looking for people to entertain them. So you get people like Tony, Parvati, people that entertain Todd, Yule, people that they connect with as a viewer. And Kim I don't think a lot of people connect with Kim
the character of the season.
It's going to be a long time before we talk about Kim on our winner ranking podcast. So that's all I'll say about Kim.
Strategically, top 10 for sure, no question. Top 5, very possible. But when you drag, it's like I don't really connect with Kim, but I think Kim's game is very impressive. Yeah. So, are we ready to move on to Philippines?
We are ready to move on to Philippines.
Okay.
That means Denise time. All right, Denise. I think Denise truly is one of the most underrated winners in the history of the show. I think people sleep on how good her game was. She goes to every single tribal council and wins the game. She's on the disaster Matt Singh tribe. And then when her and Malcolm get like pushed off the different tribes, she goes onto the tribe that keeps losing.
And she cuts Malcolm. I think that's huge.
Malcolm. And that's the best move of the game. Malcolm not committing to her and her being like, well, screw you, Malcolm.
Yeah.
I can't beat you anyway. Doesn't matter to me. Best move of the game by far. It's actually funny when people talk about Malcolm and Denise. Their alliance is so much stronger in the pre-merge. Once they get into the post-merge, they actually aren't as in lockstep as you would think they would be.
No.
They vote the same pretty much every time, but they're not as there's a lot more going on that season than you might think there is. But yeah, Denise's game, I think, is masterful, and it is pure social game. It is, I am going to come out there and I'm going to just, yes, that sounds good. I know so many people in Winners at War were getting so annoyed with their head nod and the smile. It won her the $1 million. And I think that her win on this season, it's like Sophie showed the blueprint and Denise showed how you could take that even a step further to win the game.
Yeah, Denise is a very unique winner. Her therapist approach, as you said on Winners of War, kind of got mocked. But I mean, that's just how honestly, she just enters therapist mode without even thinking about it. But it helps her with some people. You see it with Zayn. I know Zayn goes out first, but like I feel like Zayn, she was connecting with Zayn because of the way she is and the way Zayn is. But I think that's what just helps Denise connect with people, and it's very approachable. Now, if you really like want to you're like, oh, I don't like Denise, you'll find that as a reason to not like her. It's like, oh, she seems inauthentic because she's talking to me like a therapist does. But I just think that's how Denise talks. You know, I don't think that Denise is being inauthentic. I think it's just who Denise is. Though she wasn't, I mean, her cutting Malcolm is by far the best move. Like, it had to happen. It was not like, well, Malcolm and I, we have a connection. I can't not take, no, cut Malcolm. Screw Malcolm. Yeah, he wasn't planning on taking you to Final 3 either. Cut him. Now, if Malcolm had told her, I'm going to take you to Final 3, which is obviously what he should have said. Risk it for the biscuit. Like, okay, if things work out, Malcolm, and you get to decide, and you cut her, maybe she doesn't vote for you. Maybe, you know. I think Denise might respect that move still. She might be mad at you, but I think she might respect the move, being like, I see, Malcolm, that I was the early competition. But yeah, cutting Malcolm, fantastic move. Worst move for Denise. It's a hard one.
It's tough because she votes correctly almost every time. Now she votes for Penner. RC goes home. Okay, it's like,
well, Penner was going. Wasn't Penner going? I don't think it played. Penner was gone.
And you get rid of Penner's idol, so that's a good thing.
Same Penner thing was going. She wasn't even on the wrong side. Penner had the votes.
Yeah, and then when she goes home, same thing. Abby Maria, she does that. What's interesting is Denise ends up in the position of being able to go home at Final 7. And it turns into, will Lisa or Scoopin go with Denise and Malcolm or go with everybody else? And I think that was a bit of a misstep, but I actually think you could argue that the best move Denise and Malcolm make is going to Lisa and Scoopin before Penner does, because Penner goes to Lisa being like, of course we're good. You're doing well, right? This is awesome. And Lisa's like, well, I already made promises to them. And he's like, well, you've made promises to me too. Like, what are you talking about? I didn't think I had to come have this conversation with you.
Yeah.
But Denise and Malcolm got on that immediately. You could almost say that's a better move for Denise, because that is why she survives Final 7. If she does not go to Lisa and go to Scoopin before Penner gets there, she does not survive the Final 7 vote, and she goes home.
It's so close too, because Penner screwed this up too when he gets voted off at that vote by just not telling. Of course, Penner's being honest when he says, I'm not sure yet, when he's telling Scoopin and Lisa. But the rule of thumb is you just say yes. Like they say, they offer a Final 3 or whatever, or an alliance. Yeah, that sounds like a good plan. But Penner, that's not Penner's MO. That's not how he plays. And in this case, for worse. I would say for better or worse, but in this case, it was for worse, because Scoopin and Lisa rightfully were like, well, if he's not going to commit to us, maybe we should find something else to do.
Yeah.
That's the right move for them as well. Like that was the correct move. I do think that, and this is what elevates Denise's win, is that I know Lisa and Scoopin are kind of viewed as a joke in the final three, but they played together as a combo, played a solid game. Like I don't think individually they played great games, but I think as a combo they played a great game. And I think it makes Denise look better because she beat that combo.
I agree. And here's the thing. Like, Scoopin's obviously a horrible person. Scoopin plays a much better game on this season than people give him credit for.
Scoopin stuff's all after the season, so the show didn't know when.
Yeah, the show didn't know, and he kind of is made to look like a fool. And of course he fell in the fire. He's so stupid. But like Scoopin actually makes a lot of good decisions on this season, and he's really thinking about the game. Like the Jeff Kent vote is pretty incredible. The artist vote is pretty incredible. Like he was doing a really good job of thinking through. The artist vote is the one that really stands out to me for Scoopin, because that's the one where Lisa does vote for Penner, and Penner would go home, and Scoopin says, no, I'm voting out artist because that's not better for my game. Scoopin was playing a pretty solid game. And I know now, obviously, everything that happened after the game, that's a different story. But I do think that based on what we watch on this season, Scoopin plays a pretty good game. And I agree with you. I think Denise's game is elevated by the fact, I don't know if she beats Malcolm. I think Malcolm probably wins, but she beats everybody else in that final six. Penner probably beats her, but at the same time, it's like Penner and Malcolm had a couple people who really liked them.
Yeah.
They didn't have everybody who really liked them.
I think Penner's too divisive. I think she beats Penner.
I think she could have.
Don't get me wrong. I'm a huge Penner fan. The moment Penner said on the show this season, think of Survivor like a story, like changed my mind completely. So as I said, like this is one of those seasons I missed, and I had to go back and binge when I got back from the Navy. And this is the season that hit me. I'm like, oh my gosh, I've always known, I guess, the back of my mind, that it's told like a narrative, like a movie, like a story. When Penner said it, because I'm a moron, I didn't need Penner to tell me, but apparently I did. Penner says it. Survivor's like a story. There are heroes and villains or whatever. He's like, they're good guys and bad guys. Which side do you want to be on, Lisa? Who do you think the show people are going to want to root for? Because he's like leaning into what he thinks Lisa, and in a way, Lisa is thinking this, what people's perception of her is. She's always caring about it. That's kind of her storyline. But it's like, man, wow. Eye-opening when he said that. It made me think beyond. It made me think about the show on a deeper level. So I give credit to Penner. But I think that I think Denise beats Penner. I think Penner's divisive. We see it every season he plays. He's not well liked by a lot of people. He's divisive on Cook Islands. He's divisive on Micronesia. And he's divisive here. He's not well liked by everybody, even if we're fans of him on the show. Watching the show, I feel like the editors like Penner. And so anything that the show could do to dunk on him, they don't do as hard as they could.
Well, because he's like one of the best confessional givers they've ever had by far. And you want to reward that.
Penner should have been at 50. Shame that he wasn't. Shame that they cut him.
Yeah. I mean, because he was in there until the very end, and he is one of the best confessional givers in the history of the show. And the thing with Penner is Penner's able to adapt to whatever the show's throwing at him. He's on the race divided season. Then he's on fans versus favorites. Then he's on this type of season where there's captains and all that. He's able to lean in and give them everything that they want all the time. And so, yeah.
Imagine if Penner had gotten the Jimmy Fallon twist.
Oh, it'd have been great. He would have known exactly. And the thing with Penner is,
he's like, my ass.
And I know a lot of people got annoyed with Christian towards the end of the season because they felt like he was playing a role. Yeah. Penner's not playing a role. Like Penner's just being Penner. Like he's just a Penner. New York writer. That's how he is all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. A Penner and 50 would have been gold. Same as Denise, though. Denise plays a very solid game. It's not super flashy. It's just solid. It's very solid. It's a game you can replicate. I feel like it's it's a game people could be like, oh, I identify with Denise. I should play like Denise if I ever play Survivor. And I say I guess my version of that is Jeremy Collins. I see Jeremy Collins and I think, I don't think I could do that. I think that I want to do that. I'm not sure if I have Jeremy Collins' skill set by any means, but I want to do Jeremy Collins' game. I think I could do that, or I think I would like to try that. Whereas Denise, I can see people seeing Denise being like, I think I could do that. I think that game I could do. I think some games are hard to replicate, like Mike Holloway, which we'll get to. It's hard to replicate that game. But I think there are games to replicate, and Denise is one of them. And I think Denise is a good one to replicate because I think Denise, I don't know if Denise herself could win again, but I think Denise's game could win again.
I think that Denise actually played a pretty good game on Winners at War to start, and then she just got so passive and was like afraid to do anything. And I think part of that comes from how she played on her first season. Because like when you're saying, could Denise win again? I look at her Winners at War game and I say to myself, where did Denise go wrong? And I think that you have to take into account, how did people play their first season to get their win? And are they trying to change that? What are they doing?
Yeah.
I think we just talked about Kim. Kim plays such a dominant game that when she's not in a dominant role, she almost doesn't know how to act.
Like Boston Rob.
Yeah, Boston Rob. And I think the same is with Denise, but Denise is almost going the opposite, where once Denise gets into a dominant role, she feels uncomfortable and wants to be more passive. And ultimately, Denise, I think, was a little disappointing in the second half of Winners at War. But when you look at it on this season, every vote that she goes to in the pre-merge, which she goes to all 6 tribal councils in the pre-merge, is a blank to 1 vote. So they're all unanimous votes. And when she gets sent to Calabow, she should be on the outs. Like there's no reason for her to immediately fit in, but she does a good job of their social game. And when it comes down to her, Russell, and Malcolm on Matt Singh, she has herself positioned in the middle, where she's the one making the decision of, am I keeping Russell or am I keeping Malcolm? Because Malcolm and Russell, they don't have a relationship going on there. And so it's funny, like, Denise is like a player who plays better from the bottom. Like if you watch the World Cup all summer, and I know we're saying this is evergreen, but if you watch the World Cup, the 2026 World Cup or any World Cup, there's some teams that love to be on offense, and there's a lot of teams that like to be on defense and look for the counter. Denise is somebody who likes to counter. She's somebody who likes to take her moments, but she doesn't always want to have possession. And on Winners at War, she kind of got distracted.
Yeah, because she gets out Sandra with that idle play, which is like, what a great play to get Sandra. Also, I want to speak on Sandra for a second, because you're talking about the way people play. Sandra works best when her back's to the wall. Yes. Sandra doesn't work from power position. Sandra works their back to the wall. That's why her first 2 times are so successful and Game Changers fell apart, because all of a sudden she's in a position of power. Winners at War was just a fluke play, like a bad trusting Denise to do that move. Again, it's Sandra trying to be in power. Sandra fails when she's in power, but she's great when her back's to the wall. She likes to be a scrappy dog that's like going at the big dog. You know, that's Sandra, whereas Boston Rob likes to be the big dog. Like you're saying, like Kim is better from. So I don't know if there's any player who can do both. Tony is like, I'm sure there are others, but like, I feel like Yule works both ways, power position and from behind. We saw that in Cook Islands, which maybe that's why we respect these winners so much. It's because like I could see them doing, I have seen them do both, or I could see them do both. But yes, there are some winners who's like, this is the position they like to be in. And Denise, it's underdog. Denise likes to be the underdog or be in the middle. One or the other, but definitely not in charge.
Yeah, because Denise's whole personality is to be like, oh, I'm unassuming. I'm just a little old lady. Don't worry about me. And that's, Boston Rob wants to be the alpha male every room he walks into. Yeah. It's not the case here.
Yeah. Boston Rob wants to control everything. The jokes can only be out of his mouth. Strategy can only be a strategy he came up with. Yeah.
Don't go talk to anybody. But Denise is like, okay, I'll go with the flow. And, you think about it. They vote for Penner. Penner plays the idol. RC goes home. The next vote, she votes for Pete. Jeff Kent goes home. They immediately adapt after that. Like you're at final 9. You and Malcolm are already the only 2 people from Mad Sing. There's a lot of people from these other tribes. And they immediately adapt and say, okay, where can we go to get things back on our side? And she's now working with Penner, who she had just tried to vote out 2 episodes earlier. And that was her willingness to really play with anybody and keep every door open, which was Malcolm's fatal flaw, that he slammed the door on her. She was willing to keep the door open with everybody. I think Denise is one of those players where I don't know if she herself could win again, but like you said, her style could win again. And I do think we've seen this style of Survivor player win since. I think it's a very, very unbelievably impressive win.
Yeah, when I say a winner coming back, it's like, I just don't think they're even asked Denise back, let alone her come back and win. Unfortunately, it's really based on Winners at War, not because if she'd only played Philippines, I could see them bringing her back. But after Winners at War, it's like, I don't know if Denise is high on their list to bring back, especially when there's other players who we haven't seen that we definitely would love to see back. Earl, Amanda Kimmel, I would love to see those players back before Denise. So I do really like Denise's game. I think that it's important to note that I don't think there's a single person in this section of our discussion from Fabio to Denise who has a bad final tribal council.
Yeah,
Bob doesn't. Sophie doesn't have a bad one. Kim doesn't have a bad one. Denise doesn't have one. I know Fabio. I don't remember him having a bad one. I don't remember that.
Fabio's is pretty good because he convinces people to vote for him. Like Chase's is more bad than Fabio's is good, but Fabio going into that final tribal, Fabio was not a lock to win by any means.
That's what I'm saying. Like, so we talked about. I know previously we talked about how like Gabon, infamously all three of them were terrible. People perceive Amanda to be worse, in my opinion, than she really is a final tribal. But like, here's a string, or I know that she doesn't win, sorry, but like Parvati wins. But
yeah,
again, it's like partially because Amanda's so bad. Like, oh, Amanda's fine. But anyways, it's like here's a string of like, I don't think any of these people had a bad final tribal, and that's impressive because here's a wide variety of winners, and yet none of them have a bad final tribal. Again, could be editing, could be editing.
Yeah.
Could be decided we're not making any of our winners look bad final tribal, which I kind of think is a smart move. I mean, be honest, at the same time, like I should never be coming out final tribal thinking, oh, they don't deserve it, and then they win.
Yeah.
Like the one chance the show has to make them look better or to, So,
well, and that's where I think Savannah's was so interesting because Savannah's final tribal made it seem like she was absolutely going to lose.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if we thought she was going to lose, but it didn't.
But it was definitely like you're coming out of that going, Sophie's final tribal is just a lot better than Savannah's, huh?
Yeah, we'll talk about that eventually. We'll get to 49 one day. But yes, for today, I just want to mention all five of these winners, good final tribal councils. Denise, nobody else has ever done what Denise done, going to every single tribal. She only has immunity at one tribal. And I'm not saying that she wasn't on the table, but it did seem like the RC Abby Maria storyline. Of course, Jonathan Penrose got that vote too. There was bigger targets set up. Denise was not going at the RC vote because it was going to be Penner and it ended up being RC, but it wasn't like Penner or Denise. Oh no, Denise won immunity.
Yeah. No, I totally, and they're like almost happy for her because they're like, oh good, it was her. Phew, thank God.
Yeah, because she's been gone to every tribal. She kind of like everyone kind of felt like she earned it, like she deserved it. Yeah, the only vote she didn't have to do was Dana because Dana gets medically evacuated / quits, depending on what if it's Jeff's favorite from 40. If you're at 44 and you quit, it's not a quit, but if you're Dana, it's a quit.
Yeah. I'm gonna throw up this diabetic survivor one. Denise's best move to me was when she got Russell to spill his guts and believe she was on his side, only convince him to not play as possible idol. Yeah. I mean, that's crazy. Oh, he didn't have the idol, but that is crazy.
Gosh, Swan was not a good player. I love him as a character.
Such a great character.
Player.
Terrible his Philippines character is all-time classic. You can hear the Curb Your Enthusiasm music playing in the background, but he is so good.
Yes. Yeah. I really do. I really enjoy Russell Swan, the character. On both seasons, and I think he's a huge reason why Galoo falls apart because he's not there.
Agreed.
On Samoa, we talked about that, but I enjoy Russell Swan this season. Again, I know he has his flaws as a fantastic character. Completely terrible strategy. He was never going to win Survivor, but fantastic character. Like what a great find as a character on the show. I see we have an end of show question. Phil, do you want to answer this one?
I can't answer it, but I'll throw it up. Slimatone.
Okay.
Either of you have any guesses on which Survivor will be cast on the upcoming Big Brother season? Lots of teasers for it being true. It's funny because it was that was our casting video that we did yesterday on our Patreon, and Blake was all fired up about it because he pays attention to Big Brother. I don't watch Big Brother, so I don't know.
Who's it supposed to be, Phil? Do you know?
I have no idea.
Okay. I haven't watched Big Brother since Cerise season, which was 25, and 28's about to air, so I haven't watched in 3 years. If I had to guess who they would pull, they have to. Can some comment? Who is the suspicious? Who are we suspecting? I want to know.
Some people were saying maybe Russell Hance, but it's 100% not Russell.
No, it's not
that's
Russell.
Not happening.
It's got to be something Jesse Tannenbaum likes, and that's not Russell.
Yeah, I have no idea.
It's gonna okay. So if it is a Survivor player, I would bet money it's gonna be somebody from the Jesse Tannenbaum era, which means it's gonna be somebody 39 to now, but more likely new era, if that makes sense. But if it's CBS is saying we need to cast somebody, it's very likely could be somebody from pre Jesse Tannenbaum, meaning old school, somebody that was going to spark excitement. So I see a comment saying I heard D.
I think it would be D.
Rumors of D or Tyson. By the way, Tyson, fantastic choice for Big Brother. I would watch if Tyson was on there. I don't think it's not going to be Hans. There's no way.
No shot.
D is a possibility, That doesn't excite me personally. I could see that though. But Tyson, I would probably watch if Tyson went on. So like if that's what they're looking for, I don't even like Big Brother, but I'll watch if Tyson's on.
Yeah. I'm thinking D makes the most sense. I think it's gonna be a woman. That's my take.
I think D makes sense as well. I think that's like this D seems to be well liked. And she's generally, by the way, she shot, we haven't talked about her yet. So Phil, get this. She last year in the winner rankings, D was, and she's been like this ever since her win. Where was she? Last year, D was 32 out of 50.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And that was around the spot she's been since her win.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, after 50, shoots up to 13.
Which is hilarious because she didn't do anything impressive.
Nothing's changed. Her win on 45 did not change. They didn't go back and re-edit the show. Nothing. It's just because she was on 50 and people liked her on 50.
Yeah, we have her in between those numbers.
Yeah. No, I think she's a solid winner. I wouldn't put her at 13. I think she just shot up because 50 bias.
Yeah.
Personally.
I completely agree. People, once they watch a season, it immediately becomes great. And then you wait 2 years and it's like, never mind. We don't really care anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. Final thoughts on Denise. How far away was she from a perfect game?
Yeah, good question. Denise was, I don't know if we talked about this, 8 votes off the perfect game. 2 of those were at Final Tribal. She didn't get that scoop
Carter and RC.
Scoop Carter. I once saw him at a grocery store, Phil. Have you heard about this?
No.
If you don't know what we're talking about, look up Carter from Survivor Philippines at the grocery store. Fantastic read. And then, yeah, so she also got 6 votes against her during the game. Surprising because it never seemed like she was going. So she got Abby Maria threw a vote on her on her way out the door. It was the Penner vote. When Penner goes and Denise gets 3, there's 3 of her, 6 votes against her. And then, yeah, Dawson throws one on her on her way out the door. And who else? I think I'm overlooking another vote. She gets 6 votes against her during the season. Prior to that. No, Malcolm throws one on her. Albie Maria throws one. Okay, there it is. Yeah, Malcolm. People are throwing one on her. The only chance she could have gone was at the Penner vote. Dawson.
Yeah, because it's all towards the end of the game. That makes sense.
Could you imagine Dawson doing what she did to Jeff, but like in the new era?
It will never be allowed. There's no shot.
It's just wild that happened. Jeff, by the way, kudos to Jeff. He played it off so cool and smooth at the reunion. Like he could have reacted differently, but he just took it in stride. He's like, well, good thing I have a wife. When she kisses him at the reunion, she kisses him twice. Once
she charges down the stands and gets him.
Yeah. It's just like wild television.
I forget who's sitting next to her, but they literally like high five her because they like definitely egged her on to go do that.
Yeah. Just kudos. That's like one of those like fantastic hosts, Jeff, fantastic host.
Yeah.
Plays it so cool. Jeff, the host, fantastic. Jeff, the executive producer. Oh, man. I wish somebody would tell him no. Yeah. All right. Well, hey, I think that's it for this.
That's it, man.
Podcast.
So, yeah, we got we're gonna have seasons 26 through 30 next week, going from Caramoan all the way through. Yeah, crazy group here. If you're not following along our winner rankings, make sure you go check them out. We put out our bottom 10 last week. We said that this week's was going to be on Monday. However, really, it's actually going to be on Wednesday because Monday is USA advanced and is playing in the round of 16 for the World Cup. So we're going to be watching that. And we're not going to do a podcast that can be done at any time. So our podcast will actually be Wednesday night at 7:30 p.m. Pacific time, 10:30 p.m. Eastern time, where we'll go through 40 to 31, which I'm really happy and really excited to be doing that. A winner ranking is fun. While we were doing this podcast, somebody commented on our Instagram video about it and said, this whatever list just lost my follow. And it's like, oh no, please, no, don't go. Oh no, what are we gonna do without you? Door hits ass. Get out of here. So anyway, I love doing this kind of stuff because it always brings up those kinds of conversations, and I find ranking winners to be so unbelievably arbitrary. But hey, I'm going to put my best foot forward. So we'll be back again next Thursday talking about all of them. Wes, I know you're doing your thing over on your channel. Is there anything you want to plug before we get out?
Fantastic question every week, Phil. I don't remember. I have no idea.
That's it.
Again,
I always feel like I have to ask, but I feel like you never have an answer.
No, I probably should prepare an answer every time, but I honestly, again, I have like my videos listed out for when I'm releasing through. Shoot, dude, I could probably tell you when I'm releasing in December. You know, that's all right, but I couldn't tell you when I'm releasing tomorrow. Sorry, not tomorrow. So what's day? Thursdays. So next video I'm releasing on Monday. What is it? Find out on Monday. Find out next time on the channel.
Yeah.
I've made it. I worked on it. I don't remember.
Do you ever watch the movie Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind?
I have, yeah. I watched it.
In that movie when Elijah Wood is essentially stealing Jim Carrey's identity and he gives her the present and she's like, "What is it?" He's like, "I don't know. Open it." And he really doesn't know. That's you with your stuff. You're like,
you know what? I remember the video I'm posting on Monday. It's what twists and advantages should they bring back and what should they not bring back in the new era? The open era. That's a video I'm releasing on Monday. That one I remember.
And that one I'll pay attention to so I can steal all your ideas when we eventually do that video in like August.
To be fair, a lot of them were fan ideas. Like I was like, what do you guys all think? So they all commented them and I was like, okay. And then I had a couple ideas of my own. But I was kind of trying to get an idea of like, what do people want? People, by the way, Phil, did you know that when you do a positive post, like what do you want back? There's way less comments than what don't you want back?
Exactly.
Tripled. Oh, I know what I don't want back.
It's very funny. It's like the same thing. Like I was just saying, you get the person who says, "You just lost my follow." I don't get all the people who are like, "Thanks for this. This is wonderful." Yeah. Like nobody ever says positive. It's just, people love negativity. That's life.
Yeah, they really do. It shows in the views in the comments. It's such a shame, but that's how it works.
It's crazy, but all right, everybody. Well, thank you all so much for listening. Like this video and subscribe to the channel, and we will see you next week.
Bye.